Every time, it's no matter what I do, whenever I hit the button, it's like we always come in like the last little. It's like, is that horse blind? Nah, he just don't give a crap, you know. Oh, welcome to church, everybody that's not here yet. They'll be strolling in though pretty quick, folks. We'll kind of warm up with some how you do's and whatnot. I think everybody knows who I am. I'm the Laughing Ogre. If you don't know who I am, it's because you got half a brain. And if you don't
know who the Laughing Ogre is, what are you doing on this channel?
I was thinking the same.
Well, that brings me into giving the intros out. So I'm going to let the Brit tell you who he is, because that's probably why they're here. So we have the Britisher, and then we can introduce each other until we get to the last person here.
Good evening. My name is the Britisher. I come from where the history is from.
And who else we got? We'll leave the Butter to tell us last, because maybe she can segue right into the.
I think the common sense guy needs a minute or two to recover.
Yeah, he like that. I was hoping you'd say that, Britt. That's the old standby I love so much.
Good evening. I'm the common sense guy, and I'm a little bit confused.
All right, we're lucky today because there was some drama that is afoot on YouTube, this wonderful platform that they purported to be when they started, where we could bring all kinds of ideas and different things. And we have a wonderful young lady here. I would call it, is it fair to say you're a comedian, Butter?
You can call me whatever you want, Ogre.
Well, I'd say as far as your videos go, they always have a point. Well, not always. Sometimes they have a point to them, but then we get cake videos and we get lecturing booby videos.
Yes. I guess it's fair to say that I post about kind of just whatever interests me at that particular moment in time. So you're going to get your, let's see, I did a video the other day about how Joy Sparkles wasn't 1 pound obese just because of the BMI. And just kind of talked a little bit about that and the BMI in general. And I have a video where I'm drinking milk and throwing up the OK sign while listening to Chatelet. So, you know, it just is what it is.
Yeah. That was...
And, yeah. The drama. You want to know about the drama?
Yeah, and I got your video queued up. Whenever you want me to play it, I'll pop that up as soon as you want. It's got audio and the whole nine for you.
Sure. Okay, so let me lay down a little bit of backstory for why this video exists in the first place real quick. So I don't know how many people out there have actually interacted with me, but for a while I've been saying, you know, if I ever make it to 200 subs, I'll do a week of boob videos. I didn't think I'd make it to 200 subs ever. To be honest, I never thought I'd make it to 100. I don't understand what people want to listen to me talk for. But
goodbye.
But so I finally did actually make it to 200 subs. So Monday night, I post this video. Go ahead and play it.
You're not presenting. There we go.
There we go.
The patriarchy isn't real, and I make the...
So those were two bald-headed gentlemen who got lost in your blouse.
Yes, exactly. I'm trying to get them out.
The patriarchy isn't real, and I make delicious, delicious sandwiches.
That's
Not
it.
bad.
Okay, I'm sorry there was a little technical glitch there. I was actually laughing so hard that I didn't push the right button, and so I had to go back, and you seen it popped up on top of the video. But you see that, so your motivation, and now hopefully everyone now can see why I call her a comedian, because I've not only seen the milk, I've seen the cake where you, in a very sensual manner, I believe you were deciding whether or not you were going to go out on a date or get laid or something, or eat some chocolate cake.
I'm just wondering what the thumbnail to this video, to this live stream video, is going to look like, and whether this video may potentially be there for your viewing record.
No, well, I was thinking about just having you and I in the standard thumbnail with the boobies in between, as if we were there, you know, and they're in between us.
The
With
two
no-
bald
no
gentlemen,
text.
yeah.
No text whatsoever.
Well, so anyway, I put that video up, right? 23 hours later, with over 700 views, it comes down and I get an email saying I have a community guideline strike because content that contains nudity.
You seem to be breaking up on us.
Can you hear me?
No, and she might be good. It may be you, Brett.
Okay.
Maybe. If she's robot, let her know out in the chat. Carry on, Cupcake.
That's fine. So yeah, comes down 23 hours later with over 700 views, I may add. And I get a community guideline strike because somebody flagged my video. And I'm pretty sure that somebody flagged my video because I involved myself within this particular community. Because if you do a YouTube search for jiggly boobs, you will get worse than my 13-second video that I posted up.
Oh, I've not just that. We were talking before
Much
you got here. The Brett and I sometimes have a pre-show rambling we did today, and you have girls in white T-shirts that look like they can dial a rotary phone. I mean, they're sure their nipples aren't exposed, but you can see the areola. I mean, you can see it just goes on and on and on. They didn't take you down, in my humble opinion, because of your boobs, Butter. They took them down because of the words you said.
Yes, exactly. And I just want your viewers. This, you guys, you see, this is how much cleavage is not appropriate for YouTube. I repeat, this amount of cleavage apparently is not appropriate for YouTube.
She's trying to get your live stream taken down, Olga.
I am, because I love you that much.
She even asked me earlier. She showed me what she was wearing. She said, "No, brother, we were on a live stream and she was here. You remember?" And I was putting up very flattering pictures of her with some nice shots, and you could see she looked like a pin-up girl from and those showed more cleavage than what we just saw there.
Exactly.
And nothing happened. I don't think anything will happen here as long as we don't say the politically incorrect things, the words, as long as we exercise right think, Britt, we're going to be fine. We don't have
long as nobody says
so don't say the patriarchy doesn't exist then. Is that what you meant?
You can say whatever you want. It may not be the opinion. Let me get I got it. No, I won't get the contract out right now, but I would have to look.
No, Sargon doesn't believe in the patriarchy either, Olga.
No, he doesn't know.
Oh no, that's not. I have two down here. I also have the one between you and I and Satan that we had to sign.
Of course, yes.
In order to even have this tiny channel.
And ironically, Satan is the person in the universe who is most politically correct.
Absolutely. Indeed. Yeah, he's rough. I hated to get it out, but and he would say in it's paragraph 17 on page 1052. Yeah, it says that
rumor has it once you go to hell, once they're finished with you, you don't have a specific gender.
Well, that's fair enough.
Oh man, we're gonna run over Butter because in the end, I don't really. I mean, even though it sounds snowflakey, let it sound snowflakey. I do want your feels on this because first, let me just ask you this to lead up, get the Britishers' gears grinding and everyone here to ask questions to you. In the end, what was the point of this video? I mean, was it the entire thing a satire? Or was there an underlying point that you really would like to get across?
Oh no, the entire thing was purely satire. I promised that I would make these videos. I kept saying, and I'm not a person who likes to go back on my word. So I figured, as long as I'm going to make these videos.
Well, I pay you to make them. I just don't pay you much because it's per video. So anyway, carry on.
But I figure as long as I'm going to make these videos, as long as I've agreed to make a week of these videos, I may as well get out the, shall we say, skeptic and or anti-SJW agenda, which is, the debunking of the feminist rhetoric, as it were. Which I know everyone debunks it, and it's been debunked to hell and back. I get it.
Yeah, but your method
But-
was a little different in how you did it.
Exactly.
It was very short and to the point. Yeah, so tell us how your method might even, because now we see that you do want to take down the idea of this insane maybe third wave feminist ideas. Yeah, carry on. I don't want to put too much in your head.
Well,
That's
look,
just interesting to me.
it's
'cause
like
was
this.
great.
It's like this. I have boobs. They've lived on my chest for 30 years. Why can't I put them to use to do something that's going to help get the word out there, so to speak? Because, you know, there are a lot of people, they're not going to click on a video featuring, you know, a guy throwing up a rock sign or, you know, a dude with a British flag. They're going to click on boobs.
Ha!
Right?
My cat. Yay.
Yeah, and a cat. And a cat. Yeah.
Oh.
There goes my
Anyway.
channel.
I don't know. No. But you know what I'm saying. They're gonna click on boobs. They're there for the boobs. I know they're there for the boobs. Oh,
Okay.
why can't I do both?
So have you actually appealed this?
Yes, I have.
Good.
Okay. Because my guess is the appeal is more than likely going to be granted. Because I had a video taken down which in a way falls into exactly the same category. I did a video which was called The Sex Object. And it was, again, a sort of a debunking video in that regard. It looked at the origins of the term sex object, because you hear it constantly. I mean, you know, the Anita Sarkeesians of this world absolutely adore the use of that particular term. So I basically, you know, try to explain where it had come from and how it was actually being misused in context to its original meaning. And of course, it was taken down. Now, it was something very easy to take down because it was something very easy to complain about, because it was, oh, well, you know, this is about sex object. This is disgusting. Whereas, of course, it had absolutely no sexual connotation to it. But I think in this regard, given that you are basically being satirical, and you are not showing any more than anybody, you know, than other women have already shown in other videos, I don't see how one could maintain a ban on your video. So I really think, yes, if you hadn't already appealed it, you should appeal it.
Oh, I've already appealed it. Because exactly, somebody somewhere saw it, got a little butthurt, flagged me, and YouTube took it down.
And to
Maybe-
me, there's
maybe
there's
three
only,
somebodies.
there can
Who
only
knows?
be two reasons to be butthurt, Butter, in my mind. And I could be wrong, but here's reason number one. What we're talking about. Somebody watched it. You said the patriarchy don't exist, and it said you made really, really great sandwiches while jiggling your ample bosom. Okay, that's number one. Number two, some chick was watching that maybe has some mosquito bumpies and was like, dang, look at them big old bouncy bosoms. I wish that I had bosoms like that. This bitch is showing her nice big boobies, and then flagged it. So to me, either way, it comes down to what you said. Somebody is, for lack of a better term and sticking with a vernacular, butthurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Over
Well,
boob.
frankly, I think if it were the latter, then all the others would also be taken down.
I've been
Do you
taken
know what I mean?
down, yeah.
So
Yeah.
strictly speaking, this can really only be about context
Thank you.
rather than about the imagery in question.
I suppose there's only one way to find out.
How's that?
Post another boob jiggling video, this time with no nothing like the
Well, yes,
patriarchy
but then
isn't
you're
real.
asking for a community
Yeah,
strike just
yeah,
for
please.
so I wouldn't do that.
Wait until this one goes.
As with me, it took 2 to 3 weeks. So that was the time frame I had to wait. That is typical, or whether that was just a one-off in any. But I you know, that's the only thing I can sort of tell you, that it could take that length of time.
And what's the advice here, Brett? The advice, I believe, is to wait until this matter is resolved.
Yes, because otherwise you end up with 2 community strikes rather
You know,
than one.
I did a lot of radio stuff where I was just playing any damn songs I wanted, and I listened to the Brit. If I hadn't have, I really believe by now they would have just shut me down. And so be careful with that, because we're fighting against something and we need to do it wisely.
Alternatively, if I just may, there is one way in which you could resolve this completely, of course. You could just let them know that you can't be you can't receive a strike for community guidelines in this regard because you identify as a man and therefore you don't have breasts.
You have been the 5th person to tell me that.
Oh, well, sorry, I thought I was being original there, you see.
Me too. I didn't think of that one.
Yes, because if you are a man, then you cannot have bosoms, and therefore they cannot be anything on camera. So you could effectively insist that there is nothing there.
Yes.
And then you could watch them sort of, do kind of semantic pirouettes trying to justify their own value system whilst at the same time still maintaining a ban.
And then you could do your first topless live stream here with the Britisher and I. With your male bosoms out.
The problem with that is that means I have to identify as male.
Just tick a box. It's easy. It's more easier than you think. Tick a box.
Oh, and that's why they hate you, girl. Because
a week later, a day later, you can just tick the other box again.
Exactly.
So I just identify as gender fluid then.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
So anytime they see your bosoms and it offends them, you were identifying as a male.
But any other time, you're a female.
Your sex is whatever is convenient at the time.
Yeah, so I'm gender fluid. Got it. Okay.
I'll tell you, because regardless of what anyone would rate you, i.e., some people we won't name right now that you said, regardless of that, to me, you're Laura Southern. You are as far from feminist. The image that pops up in most people's mind when they think feminist, like the screaming woman. You're so far from that. You're a lady. So man, that ain't going to be allowed in this society of safe space YouTube. Ain't gonna happen.
Safe space YouTube, as long as you agree with what they want you to agree with. It's always a safe space then, isn't it, Pop? Yeah. Go.
Well, in the end, so let's just say this: if it goes by, of course you're going to put this back up.
Oh yeah.
And then double down.
Yeah, I may actually just in rapid succession upload the entire week of boob videos that I was supposed to do.
Just like little snippets like that, with like a little topic that the boobies will come and say something to you, like like that.
For now, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and upload them onto Twitter so that I can still do what I said I was going to do.
Okay.
What a shameless plug to get people to all move to Twitter and sign you up so they can see your boobies, which I will be doing, by the way, now.
Well, and I'm going to be watching you laugh, but I got to say that even though, as the Britisher was saying, the problem is because of the part of the body, and thus the joke, people will say you're a man. They can say that it's sexualized. That's the only leg they have to stand on. But just for me, I don't know. I mean, everybody's seen where people get upset.
I think the wording we hit upon when we looked at the you showed me that bit of text. It wasn't sexualized. It was sexually provocative.
Provocative, yes.
And it's that word which is so wonderfully vague that it allows for so much room for interpretation. That if you remember, I said to you, it sounds almost as though YouTube has been taking lessons from the British government as to how to basically word rules in such a way that it allows them leeway in every which direction. Because, I mean, just ask yourself what can be sexually provocative, and then you just think, well, that just depends on anyone's particular sexual fetish. And the most mundane tasks could suddenly become sexually provocative.
Like the old plumber story. I'm just saying, I'm using that as an example, as obviously most people here, without saying any of the words, most of your common stories from that type of thing are going to be from plumbers, aren't they? And not most people get intrigued by plumbers coming over to fix their pipes.
Yep.
Woohoo!
Yeah, BBC is doing a rerun here, ladies and gentlemen.
And I make delicious, delicious sandwiches.
I have a quick question to you on that, Buttercup. What made you decide to use the phrase "I make delicious sandwiches"?
Well, it's the meme, isn't it?
No, I know. I just wanted to hear what her point of view was on it. I assume you're still identifying as a female at the moment.
Yeah. I identify as a female at the moment. Yes. Of course, it does come from the whole "make me a sandwich" thing. And then just every time that me and my friends, we talk about the patriarchy, we talk about sandwiches. And it's just this joke. And see, I don't know if you guys know who Dire Wolf is.
Oh yeah.
But I was on one of his streams one time, and in the hangout after, me and one of his other guests were just joking around, and we started doing this whole improv skit thing about the patriarchy, like oppress me with your patriarchy and make me a sandwich and all this ridiculousness. And so Dyer decided to go back on air and turn it into a thing. I will actually send it to you guys if you want. It exists. It's out there. It's online. And it's just me basically like, I made you a sandwich. I can't even do it now. I'm trying so hard not to laugh. But I was like, I made you a sandwich, and it's so moist and covered with salad dressing.
That's what's going to get us taken down.
Yeah, that's definitely going to get us
It's not going to be the little thing you showed earlier. It's the cake thing. But I think I sent you a link. I think I did. You may or may not have watched it. She did this little thing with chocolate cake and a decision to be made.
Yeah. No, it was this is how I get down on a Wednesday night, and then it was just me.
Well, and you got to look at the bright side. If you ever need some cash, you get on one of the sexy call things. They've been doing that. They'll never quit doing that. There's always people that want to hear it on the phone.
There's always really lonely people out there.
You don't even have to see the person.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I could make money doing that, you guys. I really could. I think I was talking to some people the other night.
Stopped. He was like, "Really, Olga?" She was
how dare you?
Sorry, I'm busy dialing.
I was talking to some people the other night, and they had me doing that voice and just saying the most ridiculous things that they could possibly think of.
We'll shy away from that a little bit tonight. But what we will do, though, is we will all go to her channel and sub if we're not already have done that like I have.
Yes,
and,
please.
Encourage her to do more videos. She could have broke me because I've pledged a tiny amount per video, but she's done like one in the last 50 years. So,
I have put up 3 in the last 2 days. Okay, so
I did, and I seen that, and that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I want your money, Ogre.
It cost me nothing. It's gonna pledge over. It didn't cost me anything at all. It's like a message. It's like Butter says, "Go fuck
sandwiches," but she charges for them.
Oh yeah. Oh well, I don't know. You could. If you're like myself and you want to see someone, and you want to encourage them, I don't know. We're Americans here. Nothing says I want you to succeed like fucking greenback, a little dollar bill here or there. And I just wanted to continue with the comedy. I still am struck that it wasn't offensive material other than
Boobies.
The cleavage issue. I really am. Because they're afraid to come out and say why they
boobies are too much for YouTube to handle.
Much for way
too much for YouTube to handle.
It's like
yeah, you can now actually put that under your on your channel or whatever, some kind of subtitle, Buttercup, too hot for YouTube.
Yeah, we got to think of something in the thumbnail for sure. I'm sure she'll make the top of the list. It won't be nothing about drying a chicken this time.
It depends. You might jerk one instead. You led me there. It was too easy. I'm sorry.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. That's why you're here, mate.
Common sense guy, please. Remember, you're British.
Sorry. I will have my decorum back. I'm sorry.
No, but the only thing we do not tolerate here is apologies. So we'll move.
Remember we need, remember who you are. We need to set an example for the Americans.
Well, I would
Indeed.
say,
Why? We won't listen anyway.
well, Butter, if if this goes in your favor,
There
and
is that.
you
Yes.
video up, I really hope that the succession of whatever you're going to end up calling this talking boobies, I can't even I was trying to think of something with pectorals, but like the preaching pectorals, but whatever. I would hope that if it's ruled in your favor, that you would put that right on up there, man, because it's hilarious. It's funny. And that's number one. And anytime you can make a good, serious point with comedy, number two is man, that is a number two. It's a big old poo on them.
Yeah, as for the next skit, you could always pretend to be an IT consultant, Buttercup, and you've got them named. One is Hewlett and the other one's Packard.
Oh my god.
Anyway, moving on.
Welcome. Oh, and we've had you for a half hour, so if you do have some final thoughts on this thing, Butter, I've got some other crazy news that we're going to talk about. I know you have much better things to do. I would like to thank you before you give your final spiel and just tell you that on the spur of the moment, and I'm sure you're going to get other opportunities to go on other streams, be in other things, but get out there as often as you can. And I'm so stoked because this is the first place that you were able to swing by and to tell of your plight at the hands of this horrific social justice machine. Thanks a lot, girl.
It's no problem. Thank you for having me on. Yes, this will be the boob-tastrophe of 2017. And I am Buttercup. My objective is to confuse your pants by both arousing you and making you laugh.
Damn, I'm already gone. I'll see you later.
And go and subscribe to my channel, if you want. At this point, I'm so angry. With YouTube, I just kind of want to scream. And if you feel like it, angry tweet YouTube. Tell them how you feel about them taking that video that he showed down. Explain that it is satire, because I've been doing it, and I've been trying to let people within this community know exactly what they're doing, because it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop, you guys. It's not. They're going to keep doing this to us because they are a social justice warrior machine now. It is what it is at this point. And all we can do is fight the good fight and move where we have to move to get our voices heard, and do what we have to do to get our voices heard. Whatever that takes. So, in that respect, I'm trying to amuse myself and amuse other people and get our message across. That's all I want to do.
You're funnier than Sarah Silverman, and also you're better than her at confusing my pants.
Definitely.
Well, that's good.
No.
All right.
It's funny. It works good.
Are you on VidMe as well, Buttercup?
What?
Are you on VidMe? Do you have any other platforms or just YouTube?
Not right now. I'm looking into it. It's just, I'm lazy as fuck.
No, besides that, look, I am too then, so let's just stick with YouTube. And before we bombard her, that was her final word. So if she wants to stay and answer some of you suckers' questions, she will. But if she don't,
Sure.
she's very cool. She gave us, oh man, I want to try to rope you in, girl. Do whatever you want, and I am going to go on to the other stories also.
Well, I'll stay for questions if anybody has any.
Okay, if somebody's got one. And look, Mad Dodge, why don't you say something where we can understand you, Mad Dodge? Come on. All right, so that's it. Ask her anything for the next 5 minutes. There, we ran him up. So if anybody else got something, we'll graciously give you a chance to bow out, Butter, because that was kick ass. It really was cool, because I have a feeling you're going to be on other things. So what do you got, Dodge?
My mic better? If it was shitty,
Yes.
the only question I had was, is she on VidMe? That was it. Sorry if I stepped on your toes, Ogre.
No, you can't reach him from where you're at.
I think the
Okay, but
chat has some questions for me.
Oh, do they? I'm sure they do. If they do, answer them. If you already say, oh my goodness, if they're, you can, and you have, look, we had,
what is it all about cup sizes?
oh, you know, we had Count Dankula on, remember, Brett? And I was like, I said, there's some stuff coming through the chat, man. I don't really want to ask you that. And he was like, ask me anything. And there was some things I won't repeat about stuff in his beard. And oh, Lord, you were there. If you don't remember, it's because you blocked it out. But so yes, if you want to answer any of those things,
sure.
Go ahead, and I won't ask them.
Let's see. Me too would like to know my age and height. I am 30 and I'm 5'8". Logical Lion would like to know if I put things in my cleavage. Donate to my Patreon to find out.
Good answer. Very, very good answer.
Solid answer.
RPR would like to know if he can get a DM on Twitter vids of wake-up calls. I'm not sure what the hell you're asking for there.
In other words, he wants you to record something like, wake up, RPR, it's time to go to work. Get up, honey. Mama needs you to get ready, something like that.
I'm not going to be mama. That's a little weird.
Or whatever. I mean, I just was off the top of my head because maybe that's what I'd want somebody that was Floridian. Who knows?
Is that what is usually referred to as a Freudian slip?
Yes. Yes, RPR, I will record you something for a wake-up call. Yes, I'll do that. That's fine.
Yeah, well, you got to donate. You have to donate. You heard her. You got to give. You know, got to put some in the hat. This is the way it is. Professional voiceover person she is, and you know what? Professional just means you've been paid for it. Doesn't matter if it's a buck.
I love your Patreon money.
Oh,
donate.
There we go. Before you go, it would be cool if you said, I am Butter Cupcakes, and I just love to be on Britisher and the Ogre stream or something like that. You know, before you left, if you could give me something like that, it would be awesome.
My name is Buttercup, and I love coming on Ogre streams because I love being double teamed by Ogre and the Britisher. There you go.
All right, I'm going to download this stream then. Okay. Does that work for you, Brett? That's fine with me. We could just do that in one take. That's perfect.
I don't know what to say.
Okay.
Just high five and don't look at each other. You'll be fine.
I've left the Britishers speechless. I think I win today because I don't think that happens very often.
Only with females. Put Scott Pressler in front of him, like a gay dude. Don't bother. Put Scott Pressler there, he'll just beat him up. Cyber beat him up. You know. Apparently, Butter, you did that today. You left him a little speech. No, that was good though, and yeah, I'll download this. I downloaded one. This will be like the second one I've downloaded to take. And the other one was the white YouTuber. I put some things in there. It was a little racy to leave up on my channel because I'm trying to do something in a different way. Buttercup, and I don't have no problem. That's why I wanted to talk about this, because whether or not I don't think what you did was wrong. I don't even think that. I believe that, look, if your child is old enough to get on the internet and knows how to get on YouTube and whatnot, then A, you should either have some kind of parental controls, i.e. they can't get to the computer if you don't know it, or B, you better tell them about some stuff that they may see and that they may run across. I don't know how you do that as a parent, man, with a youngster, but that's why I don't have kids. But if you happen to run across Butter, man, she's just trying to be funny.
I think what you're driving at there essentially is that
I was trying to get my words back, Brett, because that was good.
The entire world, strictly speaking, is to be adult, and children are supposed to be found a special place within that world, within that setting. The idea is not to infantilize the entire world so that all adults must live as children, so that children can roam around completely unfettered. Because otherwise, you're basically turning the entire humanity into children, or at least you are treating them as such. And that is very much what you're getting when you are talking about safe spaces. It's the infantilization of the entire world.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's what they want. And I'm going to talk about some politics now. That was so wonderful, Butter. That was a great break from some of the stuff we usually talk about. Because as much as it's a bummer, your way isn't. It's people trying to stop you. People that are. I hung around with some pilots for a while, and they like to say, "We don't need a fun governor." Like a governor. Anyway, so
Yeah.
they're trying to be fun governors.
Yeah.
Cut
The
whole
last thing
show
we
out.
need is an internet channel trying to be the fun police.
Yeah, we don't need that.
We don't need that. We don't need them to decide what our morals are for us.
No, the government does that enough already in both sections of the world.
Yeah.
Well, I remember once trying to explain to somebody who happened to be an MP at the time, which is really worrying, that actually, if you try and govern people's morality by setting rules or laws, you are actually not making people more moral. You are just basically forcing them to obey. People only become more moral if they make decisions based on their own morality. So basically, unless they are free to make the wrong decision, then they're following what you deem to be the right path is actually not moral. It is just obedience. Am I getting completely lost here, or do you understand what I mean?
Oh, I'm with you.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But yeah, I think particularly when it comes to social justice folk and when it comes to the fun police and the morality police, that is one of the things that they just basically do not seem to comprehend. That if you want people to be moral people, so if you really are on your moral high horse, the only way to make people more moral is to convince them to be so. The moment that you just introduce rules, they become no more moral from that moment onward when you introduce that rule. They just simply now have to obey. And that's, to my mind, that is one of the sort of great moral conundrums, whereby whenever they introduce moral rules, all they're doing is proving themselves to be authoritarians. And it does not really matter in which sphere that operates. Because unless you are actually trying to teach people what they would call the right path, then unless you're actually trying to persuade them, then all you're doing is trying to apply force. So you're just being a bully.
So may I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so then if you're breaking the rules, does that inherently make you immoral, or does it make you more moral because you're bucking the system?
Technically, it depends if you're making the rules by morals. If you're making a rule for a moral and policing it by moral, then yeah, you're breaking the moral law. But if you're actually breaking a law that's put in practice by the government for sensible reasons, then you're going against the system. It all depends on the structure of the law and why it's put in place.
I was more or less talking about drug laws with that point. So they're policing a inherently victimless act. Is doing like smoking marijuana in a state where it's illegal. Is that immoral?
At this moment in time, it is. I mean, you can go across different points, as in to say in certain states it's not anymore. But I don't agree that it is immoral. I honestly agree that you should be able to. It's a victimless crime, as you quite rightly said. But if the government's put it in place, technically, by law, it's immoral. You shouldn't break the law.
I think basically there are two moralities really in conflict here. The first one is basically is the act itself immoral? Now, when it comes to consuming drugs, really it isn't. I mean, it's out and out it isn't, because it's entirely your decision, really. The only person you might be victimizing is yourself. So, as such, I don't really think one can make a moral case. But on the other hand side, there is another aspect to morality, and that is that, in a way, we all are sort of bound to observe the law, because if we don't, then it very much becomes a kind of pick and mix where anybody just chooses what they wish to observe and what they don't. And when the 7-foot giant arrives with arms like tree trunks and wants to beat you to a pulp, and he simply decides that as far as his morality is concerned, that isn't a problem, then you suddenly realize that perhaps that aspect of morality, whereby we do all subscribe in a way to a set
social
of rules
contract.
Yeah, precisely. Well put. Yes.
Britisher, we here in the United States, or the colonies, as you like to say, we did not invent civil disobedience. So certain laws that you have there that are just abhorrent, man, like the war on drugs. Those laws are meant to be broken. They're meant to be protested. It should be that every time a heroin junkie or a heroin dealer or a crack addict or a crack dealer or a drug dealer of any kind or drug user of any kind is going to jail, or it should be jury nullification. It should just be going, no. And no, you can't take their property either. Civil asset forfeiture. David Knight, you owe me $5. I expect that in the PO box next week. Sir.
Well, no, I mean when it comes to drugs, you're not really, you're preaching to the converted here.
Well, but I'm you know me, Britt. I would qualify that by saying anything that's a law that doesn't encompass don't hurt, don't steal. So don't kill, don't hurt, don't steal. Kill, it goes under hurt though. Don't hurt, don't steal. I'm not for those laws.
Oh, I am very much on side with that. Yes, but
Same.
at the same time, if we basically all just choose to disregard certain laws, then society as such would be in quite a bit of trouble, wouldn't it? Because it would then be every individual's particular choice as to what laws they would disregard.
Okay. I would say, though, which laws, but then you could also say what you just did. Well, it would depend upon whether everybody's choosing which laws. I would say that if it's a law that isn't don't hurt, don't steal, and people are losing their freedoms because there's this giant black market being created, whether it be spanking porn in England or heroin in Chicago. All these things stem from a created black market, gambling and prostitution and all these things where there's let me just say it this way then, Brett. No victim, no crime.
Oh, again, you really, I do not have any problem with that whatsoever. I mean, if it were for me, I would introduce, if I would be king for a day, the one thing I would introduce would be one giant repeal act in more than likely just about whatever country it would be, to basically just throw out hundreds, if not thousands, of statutes that are there for no other purpose than locking people up, for punishing them for things which just basically make no sense. But at the same time, yes, the law as such does have some sort of value. So much as one wants to be rebellious, one also at the same time has to somehow kind of acknowledge that if we suddenly begin to arbitrarily disregard law, as a society, we would very, very quickly run into trouble.
I have a hard time timing your pauses. I think you're done, and then you start talking again. I apologize.
Sorry.
No, just roll. No apologies. What did you want to say, brother?
Okay, no, to go back to the morality issue, what happens when a state has a different morality than the federal government? So Oregon, Colorado, the medical laws, all of those go against the federal jurisdiction. So which morality should you choose? Like, I live in Oregon. So when you're going back to morality, there is a local morality, not just a giant groupthink here in the States, would be my point. And I think it should go back to the local places.
Local communities. That's what should go back.
Okay, so, but again, that then depends on whether you accept that there perhaps are certain things that are universal and whether there are some things that are local. And it becomes very difficult then to draw those lines. So to give you an extreme example, people would then say, well, yeah, our local morality in Saudi Arabia is to ban women from driving, make them wear burqas, and chop people's heads off.
Yep, perfect. Crack on with that.
So you can see how you can see how there are moralities which perhaps some people would claim to be local, but at the same time, some other people feel that they actually violate something universal.
That's a very good point. And I mean, yeah, I think there's a big difference between drug laws like Oregon legalizing recreational compared to the burqa and chopping off of heads. But I do get your point.
Well, it's what do they call it? Reductio ad absurdum. So basically, you try and reduce something to its to its sort of absurd level. So you deliberately try and make it extreme in order to kind of exaggerate the point you're trying to make. So, I mean, obviously, yes, in the United States, it wouldn't be about wearing burqas and chopping heads off, but it kind of shows that there is an argument to be made when it comes to these things of saying, oh, this is merely how we do things here. This is a local difference. But you immediately then still run into the problem of, well, aren't there certain things that should apply to every American? Aren't there certain rights that every American should be entitled to? And then where exactly and how do you draw that line? So it's in that regard, laws are always going to be somewhat messy affairs. And I can't, I don't like myself for saying that, but in some ways, somebody is always going to feel that this or that law is stepping on his or her toes.
But not if it was only don't hurt, don't steal. I mean, if it came down to that, of course there would be nannies and grannies that were like, I don't think those kids should be running up and down the street like that in them hot rods or whatever. But unless they're breaking the speed limit, somebody, you know what I mean? All these things are here that are overwhelming. And listen, boys, this has gone off the rails, but I love it because it's going to test everybody here if they so choose to stay with the British or not, because I have several news stories. Some of them are just like laugh at them for a minute and move on. But when we start out, we're going to start out with the Four Musketeers, as you can see above us here. All this philosophy comes down to every individual feels a certain way. And so I'm with the mad libertarian. I would rather see a libertarian form of government at the very most, where they're letting the local township even. In other words, if the county I live in decides that Oxycontin and heroin and methamphetamine isn't that big a deal, and if you live in this county and you're using it or whatever, and you're not exporting it or whatever, whatever, then you're fine. But if they decide you can't, you can't. And believe me, there would be so many things would happen in a way that would make the United States of America look more like it should. In other words, you would have some towns that said, yeah, if you want to do meth, come on, bring it, And some towns that said, if you want some prostitution and heroin and gambling, whatever, come on over. You already got that in I shouldn't say Las Vegas, but you got that in Lovelock. So anyway, I sucked all the wind out of that.
The opposite, wouldn't there? There would, so just as you say, there would be some towns that would be libertarian. Yes. There would, if you introduce that sort of variety, there would then also be some towns that would say, in this town, you cannot take the Lord's name in vain.
Right, but Brent, it would be up to the town to stand or fall. In other words, if you wanted it to be that way in your county, don't go to the state or the federal level and be with your hand out saying, now we want you to help us be equal because we're stupid and we don't want people to take the Lord's name in vain, so nobody wants to build a business here, as opposed to the county next door that you can buy heroin, a hooker, and go bet on bare knuckles fights behind the bar all in the same night, none of it illegal. And can you guess which one would do better, fiduciarily? I mean, the one that had the bars and stuff would make more money. And you could live in one county and go commute to the other to work. There's also that argument too, but freedom. And as the libertarian said earlier, it's let the community decide. And if the community was a great community, Britt, in my mind, it would let me decide what happened on my property short of don't steal, don't hurt. Boom, I know. It's, everybody's like, oh, the Hogan fucking is crazy. It's all he ever says because, yes, I'm an anarcho-capitalist. That's why I believe in 2 laws. If you add any other laws to it, well, then you believe in God, right? Because that's what all the Christians go to with you, Britisher, or anybody else that's an atheist or whatever, because they say, oh, well, you don't believe in God? Well, then why do you believe in more than just don't kill me and don't steal my property? Why would anybody care if somebody was out fornicating all night with a paid-for prostitute? Or why would anybody care if somebody was smoking opium or shooting heroin or you name it? As long as it wasn't hurting some young child in the course of that, you know, in other words, you don't have just young girls that are not consenting or young boys.
But then you have an argument to that as well. What about the actual prostitute themselves? Do they have a child at home? Are they addicted to some sort of substance that's making them do that? If it's the prostitute's choice to do that, then yeah, fair enough. That's completely on her, and that's up to her. But you have to go on, does it affect anybody else? Because those actions are fine individually and on their own. But what does that action actually affect the wider people that are around them? That's the issue that you'd have to try and combat against that. I'm with you in practice. It's just the ideology itself has a lot to try to answer for, because there's so much other bits and pieces that's around it that you just can't control or try to categorize around.
Well, I think this is one of the things that, of course, very much in Europe is the case, that one tries to sort of micromanage everything. One of the things that I'm sorry if I'm digressing here before we go on to the Four Musketeers. This just came up, I think, in the last 2 or 3 days here in Britain. It was I've not seen any headlines. No doubt I could find it online, but it was mentioned on the BBC because they, I think a month or 2 ago, they broke this story, which really isn't a story. It was more of an observation, and that was that it appears to be the case that some landlords are letting out flats to rather young ladies, and basically rather than rent, they are being paid in kind, if you know what I mean. And the BBC, of course, presented this as some sort of moral outrage piece. And what has happened now is that the Crown prosecution has followed up on this and said that they are considering prosecutions. And when I heard that, my thought instantly was, what they are trying to do is they're trying to deter it. So basically, they don't like it. So they're trying to threaten that they might prosecute if this continues going on. But in reality, I don't think they would have a leg to stand on if they would go to court trying to prosecute someone over this, because I don't really understand what law they would be breaking.
There isn't one.
Yes, precisely. There doesn't, you know, the prostitution as such is illegal. So if there is a private arrangement between a landlord and a tenant, then that is entirely between the two of them. So I really wouldn't see how one could prosecute. But of course, here in Britain, I don't know what it's like in America. Here in Britain, the fact that you are prosecuted can already be more damaging than the fact that you're actually found guilty of something.
Should look at Dankula.
Exactly.
Because,
guilty
yes,
before trial.
You immediately get put through the mill in the press. It is reported that you are being charged with this vile crime.
And no one will hire you. No one wants to.
Precisely. So even if you are later found, even if you are later found innocent, or you're being found not guilty, the damage has already been done. So in that regard, this threat that one might prosecute clearly seems to be a kind of an attempt at stifling this practice from happening any further, because people will get cold feet, realizing, oh my God, what do I do if I get prosecuted? You know, I might win the case, but the damage that is privately done to me before the court case actually ends would be so horrendous that you can't really go on. So you can see that when it comes to this kind of when it comes to the morality police, I think in Europe, because I don't think Britain is alone in this really, in these sort of approaches. I think the morality police in Europe is considerably more alive than I think the Americans realize.
I mean, I get behind because I'm listening to everybody, and this is great. We're almost at the top of the hour, and we're going to go into news, though. So it's a great segue. So Logical Lion, if you're still out there in the chat, I'm just getting this. I guess Logical Lion got booted off of Twitter for 12 hours. I wonder, Britt, what does one have to do to get booted? Because even between you and I mean, look, come on. Everyone says something that somebody looks at. So what do you have to do to get booted? I've never seen Logic. He gets in some epic ding dongs, but the people are dinging back, Brett.
Yes, I think it very much depends on whom you get into a ding dong with.
Well, in no case that I've ever witnessed with the Logical Lion have I ever seen that it wasn't going bing bong. In other words, he didn't just. You would never see where there was a space more than they made a comment, he made a comment, end. He did want to be the last comment, but if there wasn't another comment after that, it's not like he would do 20, or will do 20.
I think when it comes to Twitter and it comes to bans, looking for rationale, I think, is futile. Because if it is a rational process, then explain Milo Yiannopoulos to me.
Right.
It basically, you can see that there are total double standards being applied here. That for some people, certain rules apply, and for Milo Yiannopoulos, one standard applies, and for Leslie Jones, another standard applies.
I mean, here it is. He sent it to me, Brett. Here it is. It says we've temporarily limited some of your account features, Logical Lion. What happened? Creating a safer environment for people to freely express themselves is critical to the Twitter community. So if behavior that may violate the Twitter rules is detected, certain account features become limited. We've detected some potentially abusive behavior from your account. I'm laughing because I know this guy. So only your followers can see your activity on Twitter for the amount of time shown below. That is from the great gods of Mount, not Olympus. I can't degrade Mount Olympus. Mount Twitter. Mount Twitter. 11 hours and 59 minutes. They did it. They got him. I don't know. It's kind of unreal to me about this particular guy. I've not seen Brett, and I would like to see Lion, since you must be around. You just sent that to me just now. I would like to see what it is that they said you did that was bad. Because I've seen him in some heated stuff. We've had him on our channel. British shirt. He's been on since. He's going to do something with me tomorrow. He's a dick. I'm not saying he's not a dick. He's very forceful. He's very upfront. He's a bulldog. That's even a better way to say it. He's a bulldog. But like ban-worthy, anything that I've ever seen, I still let him on my channel. He's like told me to shut the fuck up a couple of times. British, you've been there. I still let him on. I mean, it's freedom. It's just like, I don't know. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that, I guess. But they shut him down. Send me why, and we'll talk about that some other time. Because right now, if you all don't mind, I think the Common Sense guy has something he wants to speak of. I'll screen share it as we get ready to do that.
Yeah, in our local media, we have somebody that's called, the gang that calls themselves Musketeers. Originally, it was the Three Musketeers before the media actually got hold of the full person that was convicted. But basically, there's 3 people that were going to be working in a courier service. And these 3 people actually were planning to do a Lee Rigby-style attack. If you don't know who Lee Rigby is, he was one of the Royal Marchers, the person that plays on the drums. And he got stabbed quite a few times by some random person in the middle of the street. So that's what the type of attack that these people were planning.
It went a bit further than that, Lee Rigby, didn't it? They first rammed him with a car, then they got out and stabbed him, and then they proceeded to try and behead him.
Yeah.
So just in order to paint a picture, please continue.
Yeah, I didn't want to go too deep to it on the thing. I mean, they could have done their own thing, but thank you for enlightening me on that one. But on this story, as you can see where Ogre is at the moment, MI5 are actually doing the undercover bit for the what they call a depot where they're going to be making a courier service, as in like your TNT or your DPS. Basically, there was plans that were found that were going to be, as I said, exactly like the Lee Rigby style murders or the London Bridge style attacks. And luckily enough, somebody else found, Birmingham police, I believe, found a bomb that was ready to go down towards Luton, which is weirdly, for some reason, is actually like one of the most safe havens for Muslims in the UK. So I don't know if they were going to use that as a base and move forward, because not much has come out. As you can see, there's the big old meat cleaver that they were going to use with some shotgun shells and stuff like that as well. To me, it just shows you that where people go, oh, this is not an ideology and this is not what all of them want to do, there are too many attacks. There are too many attacks for it not to be an ideology. And that's what you've got to try and combat. Luckily enough, all 4 of them were convicted today as well. So that's a good thing. Unfortunately, I don't really have too much else. That's a kafir, which means
that was great.
non-believer.
That was great. That's just your story. Wanted to let you have your your piece and then some. That was perfect. So, Britt, I'm not English, so I do want
to. Forgot to mention, if you just zoom back to the actual portrayal of the 4 of them, is that of course they are part-time Armani models.
Oh, Lord.
They are indeed. They like wearing the same clothes.
The week that was,
well, they have they will have good reason to be doing so in the next few years, won't they?
Yeah, really
Indeed.
good.
Black and white, or in our case,
there'll be somebody's runway model in the next.
What of course is worrying, I think, in the case, I think the 3 of the 4 of them actually met in prison.
Yeah, that's correct. They actually met in a prison in London, and they actually were mostly arrested for previous terrorist offences, or alluding to being a terrorist again.
It kind of shows that prison, I mean, one has already been saying this about criminals, but now this also applies to terrorists, and that is when you stick a lot of criminals into one big box, you're basically introducing them to each other. So you're introducing the violent criminals to the hackers, and basically you're allowing them to network.
I was about to
and
say
of course,
that. Yeah.
When you do that with terrorists, so you stick all these convicted terrorists in a box together, then well, what are they going to do? They're going to do exactly the same thing.
Funny you should say that. 2 of them, I can't remember the exact names. I think one of them was Azizi. 2 of them actually lived next door to each other. Like literally lived next door to each other in Birmingham after prison. They actually moved together and were next to each other. And
I think on the BBC they also sort of showed that one of the things that particularly concerned the authorities when it was, MI5, when they were trying to sort of survey these guys, was that they seemed to be pretty savvy when it came to sort of communications, that they went on walks with each other in the park in order to make it impossible for anybody to listen in on them and things like that. So
they used an encrypted app as well, and they had pictures of Donald Duck, Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, and Goofy. And that's hence why they were called the Three Musketeers, because they had pictures of them as the Musketeers.
But it does kind of make you wonder whether one is kind of almost in an arms race with the terrorists, because it appears that they are now also becoming ever more clever, that they would kind of meet in parks and talk with each other like that, so that they're just too far away from anybody to be able to get near them with microphones or anything like that.
Yeah, but as we said before, turning into James Bond, they're turning into MI5 because there's so many stories about, and they're just learning from it. Go for walks in a park so you can see your area and meet in public places and stuff like that.
In order to give the American audience some kind of idea of scale, I think something like 2,000 or 3,000 people are pretty much constantly being monitored at the moment. And
no, it's 5,000 that are being monitored, and it's 2,000 to 3,000 that are considered potential terrorists.
No, I think the wider network is almost 20,000.
Yeah, it could be something like that.
Yeah, but
the figures.
The
figures are getting so large that almost, one is now beginning to wonder whether this can actually be managed long term. Because if this continues to grow, then where on earth do we take that many surveillance officers from to be able to keep an eye on these people?
I don't know. The Conservatives are cutting everything.
Doesn't London have the largest surveillance camera network in the world? Aren't they constantly monitoring these places? London, England.
Must be stoned. I can't hear a word he says. What?
It's a strange microphone. But
what do you say?
Yes, in Britain there are more surveillance cameras than anywhere else in the world. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that's been that way for a long time.
And
how do you feel about that, though? I mean, that's a good point. But as a libertarian, and for me, I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't think there should be a bunch of.
Well, you see, what we get, the benefit we get is after they've done the London tube bombings, 1 or 2 days later, the BBC can then show us collected images of the terrorists traveling down to London before they blew themselves up.
Reconstruct their whole day.
Yes, which is completely pointless. It basically, eventually serves no purpose because everybody's already dead.
Yep, thank you. So we're, of course we don't want you to give away. Who knows where you live? You might live in, I'm guessing somewhere in the Swiss Alps, probably in some kind of Bond-esque. I think maybe you and the academic agent are actually mates and probably live in the same huge compound built at the side of some Swiss mountain somewhere, only accessible by, helicopter that you both can fly.
No, the academic agent and I have a Channel Island all to ourselves.
Oh, is that it? I figured it was something like that. Oh, I forgot the point.
Actually, I think it's the Barclay brothers who have a Channel Island all to themselves.
Well, this makes me think of people smuggling stuff in strange ways.
But before I know you're doing this segue, but before you do, I'd just like to point out for the camera situation in the UK, I used to do security and I was trained to use a CCTV license. The cameras are not allowed by any stretch of the imagination to point in any public area or any private areas in a home. They're not allowed. If anything that gets recorded in those type of areas will get discarded straight away and you can lose your license and your job over it.
Well, yes, that is true. But even their use within a public space is already worrying enough. Because, for example, there was, I think, some kind of act of parliament that allowed cameras to go up on the motorway, but nobody was ever asked, in terms of lawmakers, regarding number plate recognition. And that basically means they combined technologies. So now suddenly they knew where everyone's car was, and they had never asked permission to do that. The security services just took that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to this proliferation of cameras, it can get quite worrying. But anyway, sorry, we're stopping the ogre from.
Oh no, I'm fooling around. Y'all are giving me time to fool around. Did you see what I just did there, Britt? Is that kind of cool or what? See me up here? I'm up here. Look,
you've now become mini me, haven't you?
But you can see the article down there. I can scroll through it, whatnot. Hi, everybody, and I can. So anyway, smuggling things in a strange way. It just so happens that this feller, that unfortunately because he's a moron, we know his name. I'll get to that, I guess. But this Killjoy, it's how they started. Nowhere somebody's being a fun governor. I think in this case, maybe it's. Listen, this is why too. I want to see if this falls into don't hurt, don't steal. Let's see if it does, if we can decide. So Killjoy, New Jersey cops interrupt naked man's interstate pleasure session. This gentleman here says a nude man walking along an interstate in New Jersey was using a sex toy on himself when his public pleasure session was interrupted by police yesterday. Officers responded to a report of a naked man walking along the tree line on Route 287 discovered Stephen Kukwasks, 39, in the altogether, and I don't know, this is actually a misspell, I think. It's so hard for me to read earlier. It says in the altogether near mile. I think it says, I think it should be 39 near mile marker 64 in Manawa, Bergen County Township, about 30 miles north of New York City. This guy had a dildo, and he was, hiding it in his, in his ass purse.
In his cavity.
On the side of the road.
It's another Armani model, by the way, isn't it?
Yeah, and I guess quickly before I just cut it loose to y'all, I want to know what y'all think about this. Is this don't hurt, don't kill? Should there be a law about this? It says that when this man, this Polak, who lives in upstate New York, was approached by 2 patrolmen, he stood up and pulled an object out of his rectum. He then tossed the sex toy over his shoulder, says James, the chief of police here in this department. He was pleasuring himself in view of passing autos, was in possession of a digital camera, and he told police that he'd like to get naked, and his intention was to film himself. Prior to his collar, this guy had been in a nearby county park, apparently with his clothes on. Seen above, this dude, this Kowalski, whatever his name is, you can see it there, Kirk, whatever, was charged with lewdness. He is free in advance of his court hearing. His sex toy, however, remains in the police custody. The device, said, was recovered and entered as evidence. The cops.
I hope they washed it first.
There you go, folks. I mean, we could jaw about this we got like 5 minutes on it. But what do you think? I know Britishers always what spurred this was Britishers like, you know, he's always saying to me, "You Americans, I don't get you Americans." I thought this would help.
Well, personally, I don't think that this is anything that's going to be on an infringement of attacking anybody or hurting anybody or anything else like that. I do think that it's a thing for the police to get him off of the street, simply, literally, because you've got to make sure that you're not showing kids other different things like that. Unfortunately, it's in a public place, and people can also get distracted on the interstate as well. There's lots of other different bits and pieces that can go with it, but it definitely doesn't infringe on capital principles. So
I like that argument. Somebody else got an idea when he's done, jump in. But I like that argument. In other words, that forget about exactly what he was doing, but he was doing something unusual that would take people's attention off the highway and could then potentially hurt somebody.
Exactly. That's the reason why obviously they haven't incarcerated him at all, and it doesn't look like they're going to take any other proceedings against him either as well by the length of the story. So personally, I think that's exactly what you want. Somebody is causing a bit of a problem to the point where they're not actually hurting anybody. They're not actually going to be infringing on anybody else's rights to a point. But at the same time, you know that it's going to be distracting. You know it's not exactly what you should be doing in a public place with the potential of kids and things like that having a look and seeing what's going on. So, yeah, it's something for the police to act upon, but it's definitely not an incarceratable offence. Definitely not. I don't know if anybody else... Yep, sorry.
Maybe a mental health check, because, like, who the fuck thinks that's a good... Or who the heck, sorry, Ogre, thinks that is a good idea? Like, really, what the heck are you doing?
Well, it says that he was at a country club, so one can only presume that he was drinking before he'd done this. I can't imagine that he did this on a completely sober state, on a personal note.
The dildo guy, I must have skipped that part. So he was imbibing at some country club?
Well, it says that he was caught at a country club with his clothes on. You read that near the bottom of the...
That country club, it said a park, just a public park. So that would just be a place with maybe some swings and some monkey bars and stuff like that. Place for throw frisbee for a dog, you know.
No, that's fair
no,
enough.
I thought he was just there, and it was just making fun that he was there, and that's usually where weirdos do weird stuff. Yeah. But he actually went alongside the highway, and what I can't. For one thing, I don't know about you gentlemen, and to each their own. I don't really put phallics into my rectum.
No.
But this guy thought it would be a good idea to not only to use a sex object on himself, but to, yeah, I guess it's getting off topic. I was part of this going, what is going on with this guy? To me, if they did anything, it would be he was causing harm because people could get distracted and wreck. But B, shouldn't there be some kind of psychological eval on this feller?
I mean, that Mad Dodge said.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah. And is my mic better? I turned it up a little bit. I usually have it down because of the kids,
I can
but
turn
they're
you
all
up.
outside.
So. That. I know I can crank you up. Let me do that. Go ahead, Mad Dodge.
But, I do. I do think that he a freaking mental health check. I don't know what the heck he thought was how that's a good idea. But, dude, it's the highway. You're going to go to jail. You're an idiot, and you have something wrong. A screw loose, man. Go to your house if you're going to be weird like that. I don't know what the heck. would make somebody think that's a good idea. And if I was driving down the highway with my 6 kids, I would be kind of mad if I saw this weirdo like right there with my kids looking out the window. Like, no way.
Yeah. And we got a comment in the thing, so we're going to segue on to something else. And I may change the thing. I'm going to try to just keep up with this, Brett. But as I pop to these stories quickly, the header above my head might not change immediately. But I'm going to give you all a shot here. In fact, you know what? I shouldn't do that. So before I go right into the heavy stuff that I know the Brit will have something to say about, I ran across this story right here about this Russian correspondent that was just chilling there. This might be a good way to get off of this thing. So I'm going to set it up so that everybody can see this, and then whenever I set it up so everybody can hear it, you won't be able to hear me for a second, but check this out. It's pretty funny. At least I got a good kick out of it. It sounds like somebody else did.
It was a good story.
Они-то элитные войска, ВДВ, их не зря так называют. Первые в воздухе, первые... Помолчите, пожалуйста. Первые в воздухе, первые... Ты будешь со мной... Первые в воздухе, 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 первые... Ты будешь первые в воздухе, первые в воздухе, первые в воздухе, первые... Ты будешь со мной разговаривать сейчас.
I'm sorry, I can't get too much of that. That's just.
To be fair, he took that quite well, considering that was pretty much a sucker punch.
Oh man, the guy that got slugged. Now I'll give it. Yes, you gotta give it to him. He did not. He actually walked away without very wobbly knees.
Exactly, he took that well.
Because that was a solid. He saw the guy coming, but I'm with you. When somebody's coming that way, and we live in a civil society, even in Russia, I guess it's semi-civil, judging by this, but we won't do them like everybody does Americans by all our stupid videos. He took that like a champ. That's it.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I've read the story and everything. The reason why this was actually happening was literally because they were celebrating what they called their paratroopers, and they do this on the 2nd of August every year. They go to a particular park. I can't pronounce the park, so I'm not going to. But they go to this particular park and they celebrate it every year on the 2nd of August. And normally they do have a little bit of brawls. They do just have a little bit of fights. But normally it's mostly people swimming in the water fountains and jumping around in the water fountains. Normally that's what it was. I mean, the bloke who actually punched the reporter, because the reporter's actually seeing all the praises for the paratroopers. The bloke himself, though, has been proven not to be any part or have any ties to do with the paratroopers whatsoever, and just hit him for no particular reason. Literally, there's no reason why he hit him at all.
Yeah, I couldn't get that either.
I think it was basically just because he was seriously drunk.
He was obviously drunk, yes.
And it's fairly well known that vodka has a serious influence on Russia. I mean, there is a vast problem with alcoholism.
Oh, what do you mean, Brett? That those Ruskies can't handle their vodka?
Oh no, I mean it is very well known that Russia has got a massive alcoholism problem.
Oh. Do you think that it's the natives that are like up closer to Siberia, the ones that look almost more like they're Asian, or is it the standard white Russian person? Do you think they all are equal in that?
Your standard white Russian person. I mean, do you remember Yeltsin?
Yeah, he drank, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he was rather merry at times. I mean, do you remember when he started conducting the band when he was visiting Germany?
Yeah, didn't he stumble off the stage a wee bit?
Oh yeah, I mean he did a lot of stumbling. Yes, but I remember when he actually basically went up to the conductor and took the conductor's baton off the conductor of the band that was there to play the national anthems and whatever, and he started waving the conductor's baton around because he was just so plastered, and that was on a state visit.
Well, I mean, you got to keep it real, them Ruskies. But yeah, and
by the way, I think it's pronounced Gorky Park.
Yeah, Gorky Park.
Yeah, I had no chance of pronouncing that. Gorky. Yeah, there you go, Gorky. I can say it now.
Yeah, I only know that because of a band called the Scorpions, a song called "Wind of Change." They specifically mentioned Gorky Park. What the hell is it?
I'm assuming it's just a park. Yes.
Yeah, it's one of their national parks.
It's where you punch reporters
St. James's
in the face.
Park.
It's where you walk up drunkenly and just knock reporters with a hardcore overhand.
The Wind of Change was pretty much the anthem of the wall coming down, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yes, for all those youngsters that don't remember that ever happening.
I've seen the Scorps live though, man, and I tell you, they're a bunch of fairies.
They are German.
They were so, the lead singer, he ran around with the tambourine, he was like kicking it off the back of his heel, and I mean, they were really tight.
They are German.
They were tight. Right. It didn't translate, Brett. So like I said, they were very effeminate in the eyes of probably a British girl.
To quote Stephen Fry, who of course is famously gay, you do know what their term is for a mobile phone?
No.
A handy.
Wow.
So we'll leave it there, shall we? Yes.
Yeah, and before I go on, I got the Trump's wall up, and we're going to go to that. I want that to be probably the last thing we talk about, because I want to get the Britisher revved up a wee bit, because he don't know what he's talking about with the American politics. He's got the British stuff down. When it comes to American stuff and Trump, he just don't understand. I'm going to try to get him down.
Trump? Who's Trump?
I'm going to try to work at it. You know, I don't hold out a lot of hope that in one session we could fix you, but I think over a course of years, you know, we might be able to come up with some kind of shift in your thinking. No, I don't know. I have no idea. But I thought this was kind of funny because we're always talking about, you know, guns in the United States. And if you can see this, looks a little blurry. If y'all can't see it, I'll read it. Apparently, a bride on her wedding day, says, let me just read this. It says, bride pulled handgun out on her groom. Newlywed removed 9mm pistol from beneath wedding dress. August 1st. During a post-nuptial dispute, a Tennessee newlywed removed a 9mm pistol from beneath their wedding dress and pulled the trigger while pointing the weapon at her new husband, the police charged. Officers were summoned early Friday morning to a Murfreesboro, only in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, I know where this is, motel, where Kate Elizabeth Pritchard, 25, and her spouse, James Jared Burton, 30, were squabbling only hours after exchanging vows. When cops arrived at the Clarion Inn around 1 a.m., Pritchard, who was in her wedding dress, and Burton denied that anything was amiss, but interviews with witnesses contradicted the couple's tale of marital bliss. So when they actually got there, you know, she shot at the guy, and witnesses seen it. But
so her aim obviously wasn't that good, given that he appears to still be standing afterwards.
Apparently not, because 9mm, it's not a bean shooter. It must have been a little tiny pocket pistol or something, or she just wasn't too. I don't know. Yes, she must not have been too good at aim.
Just to confirm, I know you didn't read the whole story, but on this point, but I did. She actually pulled the gun out, and there wasn't any ammo. So she pulled it out and pointed it to his head and clicked it, but there wasn't any ammo in it. So one of the witnesses saw her put some ammo in it, and she shot the gun up in the air.
Oh, yeah, I'm reading that right now. Yeah.
So she had, in her wedding dress, both stowed away a gun and some ammo.
Maybe not in the dress for the ammo, but yeah, the gun was there.
What is yielding, though, apparently...
It's just interesting that she should have had a gun in her wedding dress to start with. It's almost as if she kind of foresaw the potential to use the gun.
Well, and Brett, I'll say
still in the wedding dress.
In Murfreesboro, Tennessee, not so much. I mean, just because a lot of people go concealed carry around there, it's rural. But the idea that she's so foolish that she pulled it out, and I'm imagining that she didn't know it was unloaded, and that if she would have had her way, she would have killed him and just came to her senses later, and then they concocted a story for the cops. The other people were like, no, she pulled the trigger and then loaded it up, was firing her piece in the air.
Yep. The weird thing is that
I wonder what the up and down is on them making it 1 year. I'll take any bets for they don't make it. I'm saying they don't make it.
When you say don't make it, is this the marriage that doesn't make it?
Oh, yeah, that's what
they actually don't make it alive.
No, well, alive, I'd have to get some odds, but I'd say that they're not going to make it a year, and I would bet $20 to anybody that wanted to give me even odds on that one. I'll follow it.
I find it a bit weird because she's actually got a tattoo that says property of J-Rod. So obviously his name is, because he's in a biker gang as well, is J-Rod, and that's the reason why they got a tattoo. So I kind of question what her mentality is on that one, where somebody would get a tattoo. I know it's a joke mostly, probably, but it's a little bit weird. Yeah, property
biker gang. That says a lot, though, doesn't it? Member of a biker gang. That kind of tells you a lot. I just thought that the Britisher would think that was funny because we're always talking about how us Yanks like to carry around our pistols, but you know, I'm stand for the idea that you should.
Above board, yes.
Well, if there's ever an argument for maybe citizens shouldn't walk around armed, here's that argument.
Yes, perhaps at least on their wedding days, yes.
Or how about no females carrying them? That might even be better.
You sexist.
I'm saying that only males that own property, I don't care the color, should own weapons like that. And
well, he apparently did own property.
Yeah, well, he'd be fine. He's not the one pulled his pistol out and clicking it up against people's heads and then fired it up in the air, is he?
Yeah, I don't think he's quite following me, is he, common sense?
Oh, maybe not.
No. He's definitely got property of the woman.
Oh,
hence the tattoo.
I got you. Gotcha. Yeah, I did hear him say that's the problem. Well, bikers are bikers, and they probably always will be. How interested are you all in the Trump's immigration thing here that he just?
You mean the Rise bill? Absolutely, I'm quite interested in it because it's quite interesting.
Hey, watch this. I won't be able to say nothing, but after I do this, we'll be able to listen to President Trump. I would ask all you British people to please rise and place your right hand over your breast.
I'm going to say no.
Speaking. Thank you very much for your cooperation.
Nope.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here today to unveil legislation that would represent the most significant reform to our immigration system in a half a century. I want to thank Senators Tom Cotton and David Perdue for their tremendous work in putting together this historic and very vital proposal. As a candidate, I campaigned on creating a merit-based immigration system that protects U.S. workers and taxpayers, and that is why we are here today, merit-based. The RAISE Act, R-A-I-S-E, the RAISE Act will reduce poverty, increase wages, and save taxpayers billions and billions of dollars. It will do this by changing the way the United States issues green cards to nationals from other countries. Green cards provide permanent residency, work authorization, and fast track to citizenship. For decades, the United States was operated and has operated a very low-skilled immigration system, issuing record numbers of green cards to low-wage immigrants. This policy has placed substantial pressure on American workers, taxpayers, and community resources. Among those hit the hardest in recent years have been immigrants and, very importantly, minority workers competing for jobs against brand new arrivals. And it has not been fair to our people, to our citizens, to our workers. The RAISE Act ends chain migration and replaces our low-skilled system with a new points-based system for receiving a green card. This competitive application process will favor applicants who can speak English, financially support themselves and their families, and demonstrate skills that will contribute to our economy. The RAISE Act prevents new migrants and new immigrants from collecting welfare and protects U.S. workers from being displaced. And that's a very big thing. They're not going to come in and just immediately go and collect welfare. That doesn't happen under the RAISE Act. They can't do that. Crucially, the green card reforms in the RAISE Act will give American workers a pay raise by reducing unskilled immigration. This legislation will not only restore our competitive edge in the 21st century, but it will restore the sacred bonds of trust between America and its citizens. This legislation demonstrates our compassion for struggling American families who deserve an immigration system that puts their needs first and that puts America first. Finally, the reforms in the RAISE Act will help ensure that newcomers to our wonderful country will be assimilated, will succeed, and will achieve the American dream.
Well, I mean, there's, I guess, if I could open it up here real quick. I listened to that pretty carefully a few times today. And I do appreciate that President Trump is doing this. This is part of what he said he would do. But every time I hear him talk about immigration, I can't help but think about the wall. And so I'm not just trying to lead y'all into talking about what I want to talk about, but you can see it right above me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that he's moving in this direction. But if he's going to, I want to hear the words, I believe that I would start with the wall, which is where he said he would start, that Mexico would pay for very clearly. And that was a big, big thing. And let me make it clear, I didn't give a shit about the wall, but I watched all of his rallies. I mean, I watched 50 of them at least. I watched them every day for a long time. And especially toward the end, it was drain the swamp. But for in the middle there were months where it was like, build a wall. One of the live streams I watched that streamed them would show Trump like putting bricks on a wall, like a mason with a mason's apron on. And so look, you can't, if you're finding out now, if you're Trump, I was gonna beat around the bush and try to leave Trump out of it, make it all third person, which I am anyway, because I'm not Trump. Look, if you're Donald Trump and you said you're going to build a wall, Mexico's going to pay for it, that's where you're going to start. But now you're going to start by having skilled, by not just giving preference to people south of the border, but giving preference to whoever. Don't matter if they're from Poland, if they're from where they're from. Doesn't matter if they're white, brown, doesn't matter where they're from. But that they can speak English, that they're ready to bring something to the economy, and that they can't go on welfare for a set amount of time, because we're not just taking people in, they put them on welfare. That's fine. But he should add with that. He should have today, as quick as he is whenever he's addressing the country, which I watched when he had the Boy Scouts, or who was it? There was a group of boys and girls there, whoever they were. For American Legion, I want to say. Anyway, and he took a chance there. He took an opportunity there to mention how good his administration was doing, which is for debate at any rate. At the least, I have to say that's up for debate, no matter how I feel. And he had to take that opportunity to say, he says, well, why wouldn't he take this opportunity and this good address, which is some good, great policies for immigration, I firmly believe. Why wouldn't he take this opportunity to say, and by the way, the wall that I was talking about, it's not going the way I planned. I still hope to get Mexico to pay for whatever he wants to say, but mention that. And I'll leave it up to y'all to say what you want about this. I have so many words.
Me personally, I don't really want to talk about the wall, so to speak.
No, anything that you want on this topic. That was just
I absolutely love the actual act itself, because it's like an Australia-based system, like a points-based system, where basically you can't just get citizenship. He's not saying that you can't necessarily come here. He's saying that you can't get green cards, which is obviously citizenship, I'm guessing, right?
No, green card basically means the right to be in the United States and work there.
To work, yes.
Without being a US citizen.
Yep, just a work visa.
Okay. In that case, my process changes a tiny bit, but still, I'm still happy with the actual process itself, simply because it's better for the American citizens in general. It means that anybody that's got lower skills can go onto a construction site and get a job as a menial labourer, so to speak, or start off as a tea maker or whatever. Where if you've got low skilled and low paid people coming in, you can't do that so much. And that's not to take anything away from the immigrants that want to come over and better their own lives. But if you can't speak English, you're not going to really adapt anyway. If you can't use any sort of particular, I want to say intelligence, but it's not what I want to say, some sort of academical stature, you're not going to be able to fit in anyway. So my point is to this, it makes absolute common sense for Donald Trump to be doing this, because it updates everything.
If it fast tracks the people that have been waiting for like 5 or 10 years to be citizens, then I'm okay with it.
Fast tracks. So any citizen that's been waiting 5 or 10 years, and look, the reason that it takes a while, I think you may know this, Mad Dodge, is because in the old days, to become a citizen, you did have to speak English. You did have to know the presidents of the United States. You did need to know the preamble of the Constitution. You did need to do all of. In fact, people that became citizens, as a general rule, usually knew more about the founding of the United States and the workings of the government than your average citizen because of the requirements to become a citizen. So it took some time. I mean, you were coming over here working, doing whatever, learning the language, learning all these things and preparing to become a citizen. So when we say fast track, please elaborate on that and let me know if you mean fast track for people that would meet these requirements that Donald Trump just spoke of. Dum, dum, dum.
No, we seem to have lost him for the moment. Can I just interject in that case? Is that no longer the case then? That basically, in order to become an American citizen, you no longer have to know the presidents and be able to speak English and so on.
Or don't. No. Well,
when was that abolished? Because I didn't know that had ever happened.
The way it is there's ways around it if, for the most part, you come from south of the border. If you come from Great Britain, if you, sir, want to become an American citizen, obviously you know English, well, kind of, and then but you would have to learn all those other things, and it would probably take you at least a year or two. In fact, I think it would still take you 8 years, mate. The only people that I know that any fast track applies to are political people, you know, that they want to fast track in for whatever reason. We just found out some things about, I'm not going to get into that, but or people from south of the border. Those folks seem to get in, whether they can speak English or not, whether they know anything about the preamble. And why would that be bad? I mean, why would that shock you that they're doing that for some people? Is it a bad thing that we make people know all that stuff about our country before they become freaking part of it?
Well, I mean, it's just kind of part of the fabric of the nation, isn't it? Basically, if you want to, if you supposedly want to be part of it, why would you not want to know anything about it? That's that's the way I would look at it. I mean, if that is keeping you from being an American, so basically, if you're saying, well, I would like to be an American, but not if I have to learn the presidents, then you don't really want to be American that badly, do you?
Thank you. Because if I wanted to be British, which I wouldn't really mind, it would probably be my second country of choice. I would be ready to learn whatever it was that I needed to learn, you know, whatever it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, in our case, it's a bit crueler, isn't it? Because there are a great many kings and queens.
Yeah, but it can't go back too terribly far, and I'm sure it would focus more on Parliament and how that came about, and Magna Carta, and learning about being a British citizen, and I'm sure there'd be something.
You forget, of course, that over here we have already been bled. So now it's all about, you know, fuzzy, warm feelings and British values that, are, of course, are never defined. No one ever defines British values, and if they're defined, it's always kind of belief in justice and equality for all and women's equality and things like that. And you just think, well, actually, I'm not really sure that makes a nation, because that applies for almost every democracy on earth.
And we got Zero Cool just jumped in. I'm very glad to have him, but I kind of want to get on some stuff that I don't know if he was here when we were talking about the guy with the dildo and whatnot, but I know there was some things he might want to jump on. But
I just got here, Ogre. In fact, I'm probably going to turn on my webcam because this is probably one of the very few times I'm going to be on ever again, just with the way things are going. So,
what do you mean you're not going to do live streams anymore?
That's to be determined. I've got a lot of shit going on, and I don't like the way YouTube's doing things. So I figure, if nothing else, you, Ogre, and a few other people actually deserve to see me. My webcam's a little funky because it's my built-in one, and I'm getting a better one later. But I'm going to go ahead and turn on my webcam.
In my gut, like a pretty girl just told me we couldn't go on no more dates. I'm not even kidding you. I just got a little.
Well, I don't love you that much.
There's Zero Cool.
I don't love you that much.
He only ever came on for me, Ogre.
I don't love you at all, British. Sorry, you ain't my style. I love you, buddy, but not that much. Thanks. You know what? I don't want to backtrack on anything. Let's just talk about the current topic. And I'm sorry if you only see a portion of my face. It's my built-in camera. When I get my other camera, it'll be a little more level. So I'm sorry you're going to have to deal with probably whatever you see.
No, it's excellent. Just remember that in your glasses, we can see your desktop, your laptop very well. So whatever you pull up, just make sure
that's the.
All right.
Well, that's the point of me wearing my glasses. I could put my other ones on real quick.
Before you say all that other stuff, just think about whatever's going on, and maybe there'll be another platform. But I'll just tell you, I don't pester you a lot. You know, try to get you about every other week, at least once or twice.
Nope, you actually don't pester me.
Well, the reason why is because you're important to this to this platform, I do believe, Zero. I mean it. And you're important to any platform you go on, because not that I think all your opinions are right, far from it, but because you have a voice and you know how to use it. So anyway, let me play this. Maybe it'll give him something to say, because we were talking about Trump and the wall and stuff.
Is this one better?
No, well, I like the other ones. Yeah, you look exactly like I thought you would. You kind of built it up like you were a lot fatter. You're not nearly as fat as you say you are. But
yeah, I've actually been losing quite a bit of weight recently. I've been doing a lot of running, weightlifting, and elliptical. And I honestly, I've got to. If she ever sees this, which I doubt she will, I've got to give Tree of Logic a big ups for that, because she inspired me to get back going when I was feeling down. So Tree of Logic, if you ever see this, thank you very much. I appreciate your confidence.
The live stream. I'm sure she'll see it. She's actually one person that watches the after thing. See, we've been friends for a long time.
You do know that Sophane from Poisoning the Well is going to want to know where to get those glasses.
You know what? Tell him to bother Noah Antweiler, because the Spoonie one, because back when Spoonie's been kind of on hiatus, and he's been doing some very good, fun live streams. And so thank you, Noah. But it's his damn fault that I got the Dr. Insano glasses off of Amazon.
Now that Zero's here, I just want to forget about Trump and go right to this story about NASA hiring people to save us from the aliens. But I guess I will save that.
Oh, NASA, you're full of retards.
I'm going to play this because look, this is the reason.
Let's do this.
There was this big deal about Trump was saying they're not sending their best, and then we got the Dreamers and all this stuff. Well, when you let people with impunity come into your country, and you tell them that they're being oppressed, and they do see a society that has an opulent side, man, and beautiful homes and beautiful cars and a lot of wealth in our country. And you tell them that they're so oppressed. Well, they act out in ways I will submit like you're about to see.
Woman, and the accused is a 23-year-old illegal immigrant who until just yesterday was allowed to stay in the U.S. under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, or DACA. It happened the night of June 25th in Burien, Washington. That's a suburb just south of Seattle. The victim was working out in her apartment gym. She says the attacker was behind her as she ran on the treadmill, and the next thing she remembers is waking up in the hospital. Now, according to the probable cause document filed by the police, the victim had been badly beaten. She had a bloody head, missing teeth, was only wearing her tank top. Her ear was torn and dangling. Numerous cuts on her head, upper lip was torn, bleeding and unable to talk. She suffered a broken orbital bone, broken jaw, and broken nose. A rape kit also discovered male DNA on her.
She was beat unconscious in her apartment's physical fitness room and then raped. It was not an illegal alien that reported that person.
Now, 4 days after the rape, police arrested Salvador Diaz Garcia. They say that he was caught on surveillance video watching young girls in the pool area just before the attack, and they found what they believe is the victim's blood on his pants in his apartment. Burien passed a sanctuary city law back in January, just before President Trump took office. Now a citizens group has collected enough signatures to put a referendum of that law on the ballot in November. Garcia was granted Dreamer status in 2013. He renewed it twice since then, most recently on January 31st.
Yeah, and thanks. It just takes me a second to get my mic back on, but that was almost over. That
before you start, can you just tell us what does Dreamer status mean?
Well, that's that.
You can thank Barack Obama for that shit. I'll put a link. I'll hunt it down and put a link on the side, Britisher.
Thank you, Zero. And then I kind of would like Zero to even say a few words, since this might be the last time we ever see him. But because I know he's got feelings, not feelings. I know any logical American. Look, when we think of terrorism, we talk about going and stamping it out in ways that I don't even no ways agree with, but whatever. If they want to go to Afghanistan and increase it just like they just did, whatever. Okay, fine. Because terrorism's bad and you got to stamp them out, right? So when Trump is saying they don't bring their best, that there's rapists coming over, it's the mindset that I spoke of before this. This kid is 14 years old. He went, and I'm not saying it's because, but it is. It's because of the situation that has been created by Barack Hussein Obama and his pandering, simpering, insane New World Order ilk. That was Zero Cool's cue to come in and be like, "Ain't no new world order, you fucking moron," and then go on. What?
No, there is, and you got some assholes up in, and I know this is going to get age restricted anyway, so fuck you, YouTube, kiss my ass, come get me. They got some assholes up in Wisconsin that are already trying to get their employees, and they're basically threatening them that have already worked for the company that if you don't do this, you can't have your job. They want to stick they're telling their, because it's a safety precaution for our financial department to stick the RFID chip in their hand. So fuck you, Wisconsin, and fuck your little business too. I am of no short measurements on swearing, but I will rein myself in. I saw Barack Obama and his wife and Oprah Winfrey in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, before he was elected the first term, and I said, this guy's going to be a troublemaker, and I've been proven right ever since. This DREAM Act is a fucking joke. It basically is, and by the way, the Senate and the Congress, Democrats, Republicans, you're not off the hook. Don't mind my goofy-ass fucking glasses. You're not off the hook either. You allowed this to happen. You allowed the lobbyists to let this happen. You took your bribes. You took your additional pay to let this happen and allow this to circumvent the actual requirements for people to properly attain visas and become.
So you mean let this happen? In other words, you let this actual, to in an inadvertent way, let this break happen?
They voted on the DREAM Act, and they said, oh, we're going to get big kickbacks from this, which they did. And so all these little assholes that come in that have been breaking the law left and right, that have been deported 5, 10, 15, 20 times, they're abusing the circumstance of the DREAM Act. And what is the city's name? Buren? Yeah, fuck you too for becoming a sanctuary city.
The township or something else.
I don't give a fuck who they are. Fuck you. This is what I say to everybody that's a sanctuary city. You did this to yourself. You've done this to your residents. You deserve everything you get. And for this woman, she's going to fucking sue your ass. And when she does, I'm going to laugh. And God bless her for being strong and being a person who works out. And I hope that she doesn't have some kind of fucking incurable disease because of this asshole.
Oh. And I'll tell you, Britisher, you don't have to worry. It's either Logical Lion or Zero Cool. Never at the same time. There's no fear of that. Never at the same time. And that's with respect to both of those gentlemen. But let's face
I'm actually trying to get together with Logical Lion and have a.
Oh, you got to. You got to do some.
I know we are. We're going to try to do some streams
together.
You do
realize you're going to break the fabric of the universe.
Well, you know what they say on Mystery Science Theater 3000. If you haven't seen it, space is warped and time is bendable.
That's right. Man, I've been watching.
What are you gonna do?
90s, man. I've been watching that forever. Love that show. Anyway, not to get off on that, but while we got you here, maybe later we'll do some fun stuff. So here's
this. I'm just gonna put in my final 2 cents. It sucks this happened. This is the prime example of an actual good idea getting abused to death, almost literally. It wasn't designed to be a bad thing. It was designed to have more people in our country, which is not really a good thing in the long run because we don't have the resources, but to help boost the economy in a way. And this is the whole thing going, sorry. It's backfired. It's done.
Because I want to know from the English people too. Wonderful little rant there. From a British perspective, how does this look to you all? I mean, we have a Muslim issue over there, and I'm not just trying to blatantly tie it in, but you see what I'm saying? When do we finally say that we can't open our arms to you if you're going to rape little boys in the locker rooms, as they do in Sweden a lot, or whatever, hump girls in the pool, do these unspeakable acts and rape women while they're trying to work out? I mean, where do we draw the line, and how do you all feel about this issue with our neighbors to the south? Because that's what our immigration problem comes down to.
Well, I'll let my senior go first.
Okay. It's basically to put it bluntly, I'm not sure about this particular example because, I know it's kind of being held up as something that is a kind of a symbol for a wider problem, but as such, it is really just one example, and therefore it is very hard from there to kind of extrapolate further. Because it in that regard could be seen as just merely anecdotal. However brutal it is, you get brutal rapes by people who are native to the USA, and I think when it comes to sort of tying it in with something like, you know, the Rochdale case over here in Britain, at least I think I've got the right place.
Yes, so.
You know, then you are looking at something that was kind of prolonged, and it was organized, and it was done by people who were immigrants in a way because they were immigrants, because essentially they kind of despised the local population and therefore saw their young girls as fair game. I'm not sure whether you can, from one particular case like this one, kind of, you know, extrapolate the same thing for the United States. Because, you know, in a country of over 300 million or however many you are going to have violent rape cases. So I think that's where I would see a bit of a problem with this particular analogy.
Okay. All right.
I mean,
go ahead. I said English, people, so I'll just keep my cool right now.
I mean,
I think sometimes the Britisher calculates exactly what he can say that will strike my bone, and he does it. He's like, this will make the ogre really.
I've never touched your bone, I swear.
Carry on. That was phrasing. Go ahead.
I kind of agree with the Britisher that you can sort of look at this case and go, okay, it's one case. But then again, if you look at it as just the one case, if it's that bad where they're actually going to repeal the whole DREAM Act itself and doing a referendum on it, there must be cause for it being an epidemic rather than it actually just being a singular case. This is just a case that has broke the camel's back. I'm sure you're aware, straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
For me, this is quite an extremely bad rape, considering that the boy was only 14 years old and raped a 23-year-old by brutally beating her with whatever it was. He obviously picked something up to do that. He didn't just use his hands. Her lip was torn.
I was a big boy when I was 14. He may have just beat her up, or he may have rammed her face into something. But the case is that, I'm sorry, carry on. But yes, one way or the other, this person thought that he was so downtrodden that somebody owed him so much that he went and found this lady and brutally raped her. Rape doesn't have a lot to do with sex either.
No, it's a power and control issue, Ogre, and he took advantage of her, blindsiding her, not realizing that the dipshit was on video.
Yes.
That's all there is to it. It's a power and control issue. He feels like his life sucks. I don't give a shit. I have a lot of things in my life that sucks, but I don't take it out on others.
But can I ask, how do we know that he did it because he felt that he was the victim group?
Well, we don't know that, Britisher, but we can extrapolate just because of the way our society works. And I'll say it again, and for those of you that may not know the psychological aspect of rape, I can't say it better than Zero just did. It is not about sex. It's not about an orgasm. It's about dominance. It's about control. It's about instilling fear. It's about power and control. And so when you have this person doing this, I would just say, look, everybody's been saying Trump's a racist. The United States hates you. Make America great again means we don't like you. You suck. And they come from these this is a dreamer. I don't know where this kid came from. He might have been 12 years old and still be living in Guatemala somewhere where the rape there is unreal. And who knows? And then he comes in, like I said, he sees this society that has this very opulent side. And he's been told that you are the downtrodden. What does he do? He exerts this power and this control over this human being. So can I say exactly where it comes? No, Britisher. But I will tell you this: if I could have a month with this boy and be able to talk with him an hour a day, you know, about the weather and give him an orange juice and talk about his life and what, I could probably tell you then. And I wouldn't be shocked if it lined up with what I believe right now.
True, but on the other hand side, he might just be your standard rapist.
May just be your standard rapist. Absolutely. We have those here without this. I will just say this. When Trump said they don't send their best, the illegals are not their best. Their best come legally. He wasn't being racist. He wasn't joking. We don't allow it from Poland. We don't allow it from anywhere. We don't allow it from Estonia. We don't allow it from Kazakhstan. We don't allow it from Somalia. We don't allow it. But we seem to allow it from this group while we allow it, telling them.
We don't need to allow it because they all come to us.
Yeah, well, thank God for you in Germany. As long as it keeps up in France, let them blow
They
up
can
the
keep
Eiffel
going to
Tower.
Germany. They'll make it better. It's fine.
Yep. And besides that, let them blow up the Eiffel Tower. A landmark, the Eiffel Tower. Good sake, they have good food, so that's what they give us for the architecture. The Eiffel Tower. I mean, come on, it's a big piece of rotting metal in the sky. It's horrific.
You sound like that famous critic. You see, when they erected the Eiffel Tower, it was, of course, highly controversial, because to them it was a kind of modern steel monstrosity that was being stuck up in this old, beautiful city.
And nothing has changed.
There was one famous critic who was the most outspoken person about the Eiffel Tower. And then some of his friends realized that every afternoon he went up onto the Eiffel Tower and had his afternoon coffee there. And when they confronted him and said, well, hang on, you hypocrite, you have just been telling us all how absolutely hideous this thing is. And yet here you are every day drinking coffee on the Eiffel Tower. And he said, yes, because this is the only place from where I don't have to see the hideous thing.
Yep. Very famous. It's the only place in Paris where I don't have to look at this monstrosity. Anyway, that was so cool to me. I don't know who else got it, but that's where I was getting all that from. I don't really think much of France outside of why do they do that shit to geese, man? Frogwa, just to get the thing. But so Trump was making some good points. They don't send their best, and they're not going to send their best that way. By they send their best, I mean, if we open up the door and say you can have free health care, free welfare, free whatever you want, come and pick pickles or whatever you're going to do. Don't pay don't pay taxes. We'll take care of you any way we can. Of course, they're going to flood in. New policies like this, maybe we won't need a wall. But I'll say it again, man. Please tell us, Trump, that you found out that there are diplomatic ways not to do it and that you're not doing it. Don't just act like it wasn't one of your 7 pillars of righteousness you were proposing. I'm sorry, Brett.
I don't know where these idiots are getting this idea that we have the money to do anything, because we're how many trillion in so-called debt, and I could go on another tangent on a video about that if asked. But we have what I was working out in the gym today. Oh, by September 9th, they have to decide whether we're not going to raise the debt ceiling or default on our loans. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? So I don't know where they're thinking we got all this money to help these other people come in from our countries and do stuff here. I'm like, fuck you, get out of here with that shit.
Yeah, we don't have it to help ourselves. Amen.
That's right. We have homeless veterans. We have people that are of all nationality backgrounds and skin tones that are actual Americans that are suffering. We don't have time or patience for your bullshit.
Yeah,
Fuck off with that noise.
Yeah. Yeah, I got nothing on that one. I mean, that's how I feel about it. I would have said it maybe a little different, but I agree with that.
Well, I do have a filter, honestly, Ogre, and I do.
Oh yeah, I think your filter.
I've decided to take it off. When somebody wants to talk about our country, I'm not going around slamming Canada or UK or Russia or any of the people that I've been blessed to meet the past 6 or 7 months via YouTube of all things. I'm not going to slam them. I got better shit to do. But when somebody, and I'm not saying the British or anybody's doing this. You guys aren't. I love you guys. But when people come in from an outside source saying to America, oh, we've got all this stuff, let's just abuse the shit out of the system, I'm stepping my foot down saying, fuck you. And this is me without a filter. I can be very eloquent. I am a wordsmith. My IQ is basically 137. And
it's got to be 180.
No, it's 137.
But that's not, a little bit on this line. I've got to prod the Brit a little bit on this line.
I'm a wordsmith, and I'm loquacious. But
you are, man.
But I don't have to.
You are the chubby razor fist in my mind. I was just thinking that earlier.
Yeah, I've got better hair.
No, you don't either. No, you don't.
I'm 40. I'm in my mid 40s, and I have more hair than.
You didn't say thicker or thinner. You said better hair. And no, you don't.
Okay, let's say I have thicker hair. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay, fine, but you do not have better hair. Yes, better hair.
I have shorter hair. How about that?
And I got a better beard.
Yes, you do.
You just made me forget what I was going to say. So look, here's the issue. What can we do short of just all this tolerance? Even my friends, they say, oh, we got to accept this, we got to accept that. In the end, the only thing I see that comes from having a very loose immigration policy, when you live in a country that is a wonderful place to live, i.e. France, I could say Great Britain. I could say America. When you you open up the door, you get hell. And Britisher, look, I want to press you a little bit. This is what I forgot. I was rambling so I could remember this. You can't see that it is very possible that this rape, that the actions that were manifest in this young person could have been brought about by his surroundings, by the way that we set things up here, by being told that he's a victim and that these people are oppressing him?
Well, first off, of course, I would just like to sort of do a nod to common sense and kind of, you did notice he mentioned France before Great Britain. But aside from that, yes, it is possible. It is possible that he committed this rape because he was indoctrinated that he was a victim. But it is also possible that he committed this rape because he thought he was an alien and this woman was the only person of the same species. So therefore, if it's a matter of what is possible, anything is possible.
No, I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate that.
We simply don't know.
I really don't. Hang on now. Wait, please, just slow down for a second. Because look, I respect you, but that was, I don't like that because we're not talking about aliens versus something that's realistic. We're talking about a society that has told people through their legislator in every possible way, through the media, through their idols on TV, through their idols in any form of media, music, you name it, that they are downtrodden. And since we know here, us logical thinking people, that rape is not a sexual thing, it's exerting power and control over someone. To say, that's all I'm asking is, do you not think it's, because I'm not just asking, do you think it's possible that I could throw a rock to the moon?
You see, if we look at, you remember that case of those, was it 3 blacks who were torturing one white guy? Was it in Chicago? I'm not sure.
That was 4, yes.
And afterwards, there were people on CNN trying to argue it away and say it wasn't anything hateful or some such thing.
Yep.
I mean, when you look at something like that, that is where I much more see the potential there. That has something to do with these people being indoctrinated that they are the victims, and that basically, A, they are angry and they seek revenge, and B, they feel no sense of guilt when they do it, because that seemed to be completely absent from those people's minds when they were performing this. But when it comes to this case, I'm just not sure whether it is illustrative in that way, because it is a brutal rape, and there have been many other brutal rapes of which nobody would connect with this particular societal problem. So that's why I think you can sense I'm highly skeptical in this regard.
Yeah, I can sense it.
I cannot rule it out, but I see nothing to support it other than his being of Mexican extraction.
I'd like to add a little bit to that from the British point of view. At the end of the story that you showed before when you were presenting, it states that the young lad was sitting on the edge of a pool and he was watching young girls beforehand. So to me, that doesn't say that it's necessarily about power. It's more of a predator status. But then again, I'm not a psychologist, Soga.
I'm not a psychologist either. I just happen to know that one of the things that you do when you go through college on most average levels is you have to take at least an introduction to psychology.
At least to 11.
And they do talk about the power and control wheel, and they do discuss this is the kind of behavior that has this psychological effect on somebody, and they do bring up rape. So it's a predatory status that feeds in, and I'm not saying you guys are wrong. It does feed into, if you exhibit a certain type of behavior, this is how your brain's going to think, and this, so on and so forth. But it is about power. It is about control. When a predator hunts, it is that they are going to overpower their prey and take what they want and leave the rest. Pure and simple, guys.
No, I mean, I completely agree with you that on the predator status, it is that.
But there's societal things in place. There's societal norms. There's societal narratives that are going out right now that take a person, this is my opinion, that could very possibly take a person that is on the cusp. Maybe they tortured a couple animals when they were young. Maybe they were outcast in some way or another. Maybe they, who knows? Maybe they were abused in some way. And so they have these things in their mind. Now they're put in this position that I'll say again. They're a dreamer. They may have came here when they were 11 years old from someplace like El Salvador, you know, MS-13 land. And then now they see this where they're at. And they're told that you're a victim, and look at this Mercedes that's rolling down the road, and look at this $3 million mansion just 20 blocks from where you live, and look at this businessman with his Armani suit. And these people are all taking from you. They're all using you. Well, I mean, goodness sake, if any reasonable person, and now I'm being a little rough, Britt, but if any reasonable person can't look at that and say, yes, there's not only a possibility, I would say a strong probability that nature over nurture, this is nurture showing its ugly face. And this person has been put in this position, disposition prior to do rape or not, to where, heck, in his mind, it probably felt like I could exert this power and control over this pretty girl here in this nice apartment complex, and I'm not a victim. I'm going to show all of them.
There's also the X factor that you did bring up something, the nature versus nurture. It's the fact that he's coming from a different societal standard than what all of us are coming from. And I'm not excusing anything. I'm simply basically pointing out, hey, look, if he's lacking certain social skills of which we take for granted because of the way we were raised, that also plays heavily into it. But it does not excuse his actions. And he's going to realize, especially when and if he does not go to prison, I'll be surprised. But when he goes to a prison, he's in deep shit, because they don't like that kind of shit. They're like, oh, you think you're a man. I don't care what your background is. You raped a woman. You hurt a child. Well, guess what? You're in my world now, and you're being sold for a pack of cigarettes. Have a nice day. But it's ultimately to the point, yeah, he doesn't come from the same societal backgrounds that we all do. We all each come from different parts of the world with different societal standards. And here in the Midwest, if you have, at least where I'm from, if you have an anger management problem, you go start chucking bales of hay, because you don't take it out on your parents. You don't take it out on your teachers, instructors, your friends, your gym mates. You take it out on an inanimate object, and you sure as hell don't go tormenting cats or farm animals. There's a bale of hay. You release that stress. You go to the gym. You lose that kinetic energy. You're good to go. And people will say, yeah, I empathize with that. You're stressed out. Go hit the weights. Go throw some hay. And that's a societal standard that we have here. At least I do in the Midwest, and that we do in other parts of the world. You're stressed out. Go take it out on an inanimate object. He may not understand that societal aspect of how to do certain things. And that's probably very prevalent. I can't speak for the guy, but it still doesn't excuse anything.
Well, you see, that I can see much more of a parallel with. Because, I mean, that is, again, what people point to when we have seen certain violence here in Britain coming from Muslim immigration. That basically people were saying, look, these people come from kind of tribal communities in Pakistan, or these people come from heavily sort of, fundamentalist Muslim backgrounds. And now they are put into a society, whether it be Britain or whether it be any other European country, where women walk around in miniskirts. And
too much for them.
They are basically, they are not acclimatized to this, and therefore you get a kind of violent outburst. But there is no excuse for it, because now you are in our domain, and in just the same way in which you insist that women walk around in burqas within your domain, we insist that men leave women alone in our domain.
Yes.
But again, so in that regard, that's where I can see a kind of, potential cultural conflict, that if you come from a rather wild background in some lawless place in middle America, and then you come to the United States of America, that you may have a completely different understanding of what your position in a society is, or how people ought to talk to you, or we get this terrible obsession with some people about others dissing them because they feel disrespected. This kind of nonsense, which then again immediately then leads on to further aggression. That sort of thing I can see as much more likely than it having been that they were somehow indoctrinated into having victim status. Because when it comes to the victim status thing, I just don't see any immediate connection to it. Again, Olga, I can't rule it out. I completely grant you that fact, but that's why I mentioned the aliens, because I can't rule them out either.
Right, but you put it in the bag with, I can't rule out aliens coming down, abducting me, and increasing my
in that regard, one can't prove, can't prove a negative. So,
may I ask the question, British?
Go ahead.
Yes, but then we're going to talk about RFID, and we're going to slip on to the last topic. It's going to be a lot of fun.
No problem. I was going to ask. We always say in our videos that people are indoctrinated by feminism. Can't that be the same thing in this situation and case? If you're talked about something enough, the same as in Islam and things like that, can't you be indoctrinated into believing that you're a victim?
Oh, yes. Of course you can. Yes.
But that's what Olga was trying to allude to.
And Britisher is going to say, because I want to make it clear, Britt, I'm not, and I was using this instant so that I could say here is an antidote, but don't put it in a box to where it makes it that I am saying or trying to get you to agree with this case was caused by, okay? Let's say that the environment is toxic to this end, whether this was caused by that toxic environment or not. How's that?
Yes. Yeah, I can completely agree with that. Yes.
Is that better than aliens? That's closer than the alien?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Very much so. Yes.
Tip of the hat.
Well, I honestly thought Britisher just meant it like an alien, and not from outer space, but like.
No, he was saying you're trying to tie stuff in so vaguely that I would have to say yes as possible. I mean, I love the guy. He's just.
I do want to. I would like to put in 2 cents of to bounce off that thing about.
That's why I'm here. It keeps me around.
It's funny that you say that thing about the burqa and everything else. See, tribalism. I'm sorry, people. It's dead. It's been dead for at least 150 years in America, easily. We don't have that 150 plus 6 years since the days of slavery in America. It's done over with people.
Scots.
Well, no, that's Scotland. Let them have it all they want. They're not going around starting shit. They're at least, if they're going to protest anything, they should protest the last 3 Highlander movies, how much those fucking sucked.
Have you ever been coming out of a pub at about 11 o'clock at night in Glasgow?
No, but you should see some of the you should see some of the Irish pubs in the Quad Cities. They're pretty funky. My point is, when you go to a place like Iowa City, which is a bit of a ways from where I'm at, we have people that the women, they'll dress sensibly and they'll wear their hijabs and everything. They're dressed very nicely. Nobody says anything because they're people. They don't start nothing. There won't be nothing. We don't harass them. We don't bother them. They don't mouth off to us. They're doing whatever job they're doing. They're going about their day, and they don't feel threatened, and they don't need to threaten. But then you get the men, which is where the problem is. It's the men. They don't like something they see. It's like, well, I don't care if you don't like what they see. I can basically tell a Muslim guy right now, it's like, he goes, I do not like the way that woman's dressed. I say, I don't either. She ain't got no taste, man. He'd be like, oh, then do something about it. I'm not going to tell her what to do. I'm going to say, lady, that's not your style. But he wouldn't understand that because his brain is hardwired to it's either this or it's this. And it's like, dude, that's not the way it works. And so where if I see a woman who's wearing and I've seen them to where they're decorative hijabs, I went up to a woman and said, that hijab is very beautiful. It has a nice design. And she'd be like, well, thank you very much. And that's it. And people were like, I don't get it. It's like, because there's things called mannerisms. That's a societal difference. And it's not because one is better than the other. It's simply for the fact that I don't have a need to start a problem with a woman wearing a hijab, and especially if I think she's dressed appropriately for her profession. and I don't have a need to go up to somebody in a comic book shop or sporting goods store or Walmart or the local Hy-Vee or whatever and say, you know, you're dressed like a whore. I got better things to do with my time. And that's the societal standard difference. We're not tribalist for the most part here in America. We don't need to be. Now, don't get me wrong. We have our cliques. We have our social groups. And that, in a way, is a smidge of tribalist. But we know better than to start something if there won't be nothing. And I can tell you that gangsters, I'm talking people that are in gangs, they do suffer from tribalism, and they've paid the price for engaging in tribalism because they're in a society that says, we don't want this. We don't have time for this. And if you start something, there will be something, and you will lose. It will be messy. It will be bloody. And then they wonder why they have half the problems they have.
All right. I just got some screenshots of you, Zero, and I'm gonna make some memes and juxtapose you and Razor Fist, because you do look like his maybe big brother at best, twin brother at best, big brother on the outside.
I'm old enough to be Razor Fist's dad, and I don't think he'd appreciate it.
He's like 42. He's our age.
Razor Fist isn't in our age, and he's younger.
Dude, he's almost okay.
And I'll tell you the reason I know he's younger, because he said when he did the Iron Maiden review, basically he wasn't a bead of sweat on his dad's nutsack when Live After Death came out in 1984-85. So he's very much younger than us.
No, he was born in 73, 75, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, we'll have to agree to disagree on this one, but
well, I'll ask him. I'm sure he'll tell me.
All right. But no, I was thinking about switching back to my other glasses, but I like these better.
Anyway, we'll see too. I'm gonna make some sickish memes. Probably, I'm sure the British won't like them.
Aren't those the sort of glasses that Arnie wore when he played the Terminator and Bad to the Bone started playing?
Hey, very similar.
No, these are pugs, and I got them down at the local convenience store for like $20, and they've taken a beating.
There's a snack company. There's a snack company that you can put an RFID chip in you.
No, what it is, it's a place that does
vending machines.
Vending machines, and that's what they want to do to say, well, we're keeping things secure. And I said, no, you're not. You're just fucking. You're too damn cheap to get cards.
Well, let me lay this out here real quick, and then we'll jam it. Because if you know more about this particular company, let us know. I'll just tell you what I feel.
I would rather just talk to you about it on another stream so we can stay on focus after this.
Oh, this is the focus. After this, I got one more thing, and it's actually.
Well, let's get to that one more thing after this as soon as we can.
Up your alley, or you don't want to? Is it too conspiracy theory?
No, it's a very long topic, and you already laid out what you wanted to talk about in the private messaging on Twitter. So I'd rather stick with that schedule. To be honest, it's just out of strict respect of let's keep it to the schedule.
Well, the last thing isn't on the schedule either. I think we covered all that. Zero.
Okay. But anyway, if we want to talk about this company, let's do it on another stream when it's definitely more focused. That's all I'm asking.
With the bride, the guy with the dildo, we did that. Oh, NASA, there's the NASA.
Yeah, there was Trump and Russia. I think that was the last topic.
Oh, the Trump and fun stuff with the wolf that guards the
right. Japan. Robo-wolf.
Robo-wolf. Well, yeah, okay, and just in just 1 second though. All I'm saying is that if I had a choice, and maybe I'm old school, to put a device in my body at this point, it would have to do something for me more than open a door or let me wave my hand like Zaphod Beeblebrox and
yeah, no, that's all it does.
You know, I don't really want that though, and I'm not saying for any darker reason other than
it's they're just too cheap. They said this is basically a cheaper way to handle this. I'm like, you're basically doing a cashless. You know, that's why they have the program functions with our debit cards and our credit cards where you can just tap them. That's the same thing. Love you too, puppy. Hi, doggy. There, I did a room joke. For those who get that. No, it's just a lazy way for them to say, if you want to work for us, you're going to do this. I was like, why the fuck would I want to work for you? I don't want anything in my body that I don't need in my body.
Well, they don't have to.
And then you get fired. Yeah, well, they're making it mandatory. And then if you get fired, they have to take it out. I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you? This is what ID cards are for. This is why they created ID cards with the chip. It's not so you tap it in, you take your badge, swipe. It's not that fucking difficult, people. You don't need to do a chip in your hand. The vending machine company, they're just fucking lazy. They don't want to spend the money. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. Well, that's possible. And this just came from the chat too.
Am I going to have to lambast somebody for this?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Good.
Because to me, I just want to know from the English people, you're so videoed. We talked about it earlier that you're the most closed circuit TV people on the planet. I mean, if you had the ability, let's just say, Britisher, that you could go up, no charge to you, and they would pop a little grain of sand kind of thing in the web of your thumb here, and that would mean that you could get on the bus, bloop, you could do bloop, whatever, any transaction that you normally did, you could just go wave your hand at it, and it would be like bloop. Would you do that?
Well, to be honest, I think that is a slightly different example, because that would basically mean you were giving people some kind of benefit, and this was the way they would be able to claim it. But in the case of the company, they are effectively turning you into a tool. It's as if you're kind of a screwdriver, because they are basically sticking something in your hand with which their machinery can identify you, whether it be a door or whether it be whatever. And I'm sorry, but they do not possess your body. What on earth makes them believe that they can insert things and extract things from your body? It seems insane. If people are doing this voluntarily because they're some kind of computer geeks and they're playing around, because some people have been doing this, then fine. But when it comes to sticking chips under people's under sentient beings' skin, then we do that with dogs over here, but we don't do it with people.
Wow.
I have to agree with the British.
That's kind of the thing, though, isn't it, people? We do it for dogs, not because dogs are our slaves. It's because animals are animals. They do what they want to do, and they're going to do what they're going to do, and they don't always listen. But in the long run, to bounce off the Britisher, why would I want to give up my autonomy for a paycheck? That's all I'm going to say about it. Fuck these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Screw these guys.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much all on the same page there, to be honest.
Yeah, and it was just a short thing I wanted to pop in there. I mean, I had to get, I always got to have somebody on, Brett, that chews my ass. It's like the logical line. That's why it's only one of them at a time, because one of the other one's going to be like, you're stupid, Ogre, or no, Ogre, let's stay on task. And I'd like to have them around. That's why I like them. Focused gentlemen are these two lads. But one other thing that's off topic, if it's okay with you, Zero, and the reason why I'm going off topic with this is because you're fucking here. No shit, man. The Doctor Who thing, and Britt, I don't know if it's too much for you too. We've touched on this.
Got no problems with it.
This would be like the fourth time, wouldn't it, Britisher? So
possibly.
I hate to bust you out too, but Zero, I don't know if you're ever going to be back or if whatever. You don't come on a lot, but
I've got a lot of family business, and I was talking to some people, and I said I've basically, with the way YouTube's behaving, I've taken down all my videos. I've put them on external hard drive for future reference in case I want to re-upload them. Talking about Doctor Who, Doctor Who, they've said in the earliest, since the days of Tom Baker, which I started watching it back in 1980, they basically say, the Doctor can turn into whatever the Doctor wants, male, female, tall, short, black, white, even another alien species other than human. I don't care if it's a woman. I think, and she's pretty, B, she's not a bad actress, and there's nothing wrong with this. I think it's that the writing staff, they really need to get their heads out of their butts and take it back to the David Tennant good, strong storylines, because I think Jodie Whittaker, she's a damn good actress. I've seen her in a few things. She's not bad.
So you watch Doctor Who?
Oh, I've watched Doctor Who since Tom Baker.
Okay, so that's because this is the big argument. This is what I've heard, is that it's going to affect the fan base here in the United States because of this. And so far, what I'm gleaning from you is that you're still going to watch it.
It's like anything else. I grew up loving Star Wars, and then they put out the prequels, and I'm like, whatever. And then they started doing this shit to where they changed the originals where you can't barely find a copy. And I said, fuck you guys, I'm out. Disney bought them. I said, definitely fuck you guys, I'm out. And I don't like episode 7 at all. And then they denied the entire expanded universe. So fuck them for that too. And then they did Rogue One. And I thought that was really well done. I said, okay, I don't love. I like Star Wars. For me now, it's hit and miss. I think if you're true to yourself and you're a fan of anything, you can like something. You can like the old stuff. You cannot like the new stuff. You can like the new stuff. You cannot like the old stuff. You have the right to pick and choose. And I think every single person that's whining about Jodie Whittaker being a woman, being the Doctor, does not like Doctor Who or understand it, and they are too ingrained in what they think the Doctor should be. What they need to understand is, are the stories going to be any good? That's what genuinely counts. Not because of who the companions are, not because it's Jodie Whittaker. It's because of the stories. And as of late, with Peter Capaldi, some of the stories have really sucked. And if the story sucks, I'm not going to disown Doctor Who. I'm just going to say I'm not going to watch it. I'll see what else comes on.
What about people that don't follow the story, that see this as an outworking of this? What is it, Britisher? The how they have
quota system?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Basically, the BBC have got a quota system. They need more women. They need more black people and Asian people on screen, particularly in main roles. So they've now found a new main role for a woman. So there are those, myself included, who would say that this hasn't actually been driven by we want a woman because we want to change, we want to really change this. It has actually been driven by we need a woman because we need a woman.
Well, the BBC, they can bite my ass. Like I said, I've just been a Doctor Who fan since Tom Baker, and I've known for a long time that the Doctor can be a woman. And when Matt Smith came on as the Doctor, I said to my best friend Kimberly, I said, it'd be kind of neat if we had a female Doctor. That'd be great. That'd be opening some really good capability of storytelling. And then Peter Capaldi comes on. Nothing wrong with him. I like him, but it's the storytelling. It's the writers. They're fucking it up. Yeah, you can ask me whatever you want.
When the female actress took the role, she made basically an acceptance speech where she was saying, I'm thankful for this role, I'm happy because I'm a feminist, I'm a woman, I'm thankful for being an actress, and I'm thankful for being a Doctor Who. Now, obviously, you being a fan would know most of the acceptance speeches from other people, to put it in a blunt way. Now, are you happy that she used the fact that she was saying, I got this role from a feminist perspective, or are you happy that she's got the role because of a woman? Because I'm happy that she got a role because, as you said, in the law, she can become the Doctor. That's not a fact or fiction or anything else that she can do. That's not a problem in it. The only problem I have is the fact that by my looking and by my reckoning, she's only got it through the act of feminism rather than the act of actually merit.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you on that. I personally, I don't buy the whole thing that she got it because of feminism. But again, I'm not going to lose sleep over this. It's like anything else. It's hit or miss. The people, I believe they have a genuine choice to have their voice heard, whether you agree or disagree. And, if she feels she got it because of feminism, I'm going to say, Jodie Whittaker, shame on you, because you've got the acting chops. Now, if you genuinely did get it because it's time to have a female Doctor and some of the fans have wanted it and you really do have the acting merit, then claim that. But I'm in America. I don't have to watch a damn thing that I don't want to. I'm going to keep an eye on this. And I'm going to say, as a longtime fan,
could you answer another question for me?
I would be glad to answer whatever you want.
What lead roles has Jodie Whittaker played? Because I've only seen her as supporting roles, as in Trinity and as in Broadchurch.
I've never said she had leading roles.
No, I'm just saying, you said that she's got a good actress, but how do you know she's a good actress if she's only done supporting roles rather than a leading role?
Supporting roles are basically where you prove yourself. And I think in those supporting roles that you've mentioned, she has proven herself.
Good enough to become the Doctor, though, on merit, not just on a feminist case, but actually on merit? On
merit. I honestly, genuinely believe, as a supporting actress, she's earned that on merit. Because if you really think about it, I love David Tennant, and I love, give me a break, give me a minute here, Christopher Eccleston. I can never say his name for shit. Eccleston's done some lead stuff, and he's kind of sucked at it. And he's done some supporting stuff, and he's really good. This goes to show how good a person who is doing a role in a supporting role, or sorry, blah, blah, blah. This shows how good a person in a supporting role can take what they've been given and make it better. Because you can have some of the top of the line actors and actresses in the world do a movie and it sucks ass because the script sucks. And I'm going to say this. I think that one of the reasons I think that Ghostbusters 2016 has sucked is not because of the actresses, because the script sucked. Because you can see Kristen Wiig and all those other people and other stuff, and they're really damn good. That shows how strong the writing is. And I think Jodie Whittaker has the chops to be a good lead actress. But she's proven herself to me that she can be the Doctor because of her supporting actress roles, which she did the best she could. And honestly, who are we to say you can't do this? We can agree to disagree all we want, but if she, what if she comes out and she blows everybody away?
No, that's a fair point. I just got one last question, and I'll move on from this subject.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time any actor or actress hasn't had a leading role before Doctor Who.
Yes, that is correct. But you remember David Tennant? No, you remember David Tennant is really a heavy. And if you really want to get conspiratorial about this, he married Davison's daughter.
Conspiratorial.
But you remember David Tennant.
But you have to remember that David Tennant also did animation videos as well, and he was lead roles in animation videos as well.
Yeah, but
it's conspiratorial, Mr. Wordsmith.
But David Tennant has also done a lot of supporting theater roles too.
I thought I'd get the British to laugh on that.
I think he also did Hamlet.
He did.
But when it comes to it, I mean, given that we haven't seen it, we don't know what the new Doctor is going to be like.
I think a lot of people just jumped off the deep end for no fucking reason.
Well, this is just it. This is what I would like to put to you. Do you think it is fair to assume, given that Doctor Who recently has been accused of going very politically correct, do you think that it is fair to assume that now that they have installed a female Doctor Who, that the next series of Doctor Who is going to be a Ghostbusters 2016 variety?
Honestly, Britisher, I hope not. I think they have a chance to turn it around, and a lot of Whovians have basically said, well, ever since Stephen Moffat has left, I'm like, I could make an argument that Stephen Moffat kind of helped drive it this way. I'm going to give Jodie Whittaker the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to be completely honestly fair. I'm going to give the people doing Doctor Who the benefit of the doubt. If I don't like it, I don't have to watch it. And I would say the same to anybody else. If you don't like it, don't watch it. But don't bash it because some little girl over in England says, oh, the doctor's a woman. I can be a doctor. And they're thinking like a medical doctor. Don't take things out of context any more necessary than any more, anything that you need to or don't need to.
To be fair, though, Zero, I don't think anybody, especially on this panel, is actually taking it that way whatsoever. I think most people are just.
I think actually that was more of an argument being made by those who were in favor of it being Jodie Whittaker.
Yeah, you could put
basically, now they will see a female doctor on screen, and it will inspire girls to be doctors. And so I think that was actually rather coming from the opposite side, that seeing a woman be the doctor.
Business move. Doctor Who is a television show. It's a business. That's a smart business move. And my daughter, who's going into the Army as a medic, do you know why she wants to be a medic in the Air Force and why she got her CNA? She watched Jane Seymour's Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. And I said to myself, okay, sounds good.
Oh. I say bring back Torchwood.
Yeah, they need Torchwood. We need Captain Jack. He's a gay.
My boy's gonna fly F-15s, and it's because he watched Pappy Bowington's Black Sheep Squadron.
Yeah, we need Captain Jack. He'll fuck anything and everyone. He might even take Jodie Whittaker's butt. Who knows?
Was kind of even too politically correct for this day and age, wasn't it?
For me, I absolutely love
Torchwood.
Well, it's like
I love Torchwood. I liked it more than
we don't have to watch it.
I know some hardened Doctor Who fans who would like to torch Torchwood.
Fine, let them. Do you know what I viewed Torchwood as? It was basically filling in missing parts of the history of Captain Jack Harkness.
To be honest, I liked Torchwood a hell of a lot more than I liked Doctor Who. I thought the actors and the writing was a hell of a lot better, and it was something. Though it was in the same lore, it was something completely different. And I quite liked Torchwood a hell of a lot more than the new Doctor Who.
I have only, I think, ever watched one episode of Torchwood and decided I hated it. And I think in my entire lifetime, I've seen 2 episodes of Doctor Who. Enough said.
Well, then shut up!
I may have seen 2, but maybe.
As the ogre will no doubt know, in one of the week that was, I kind of mentioned that one of the episodes I saw was actually an older episode, and I was much more interested in the rather well-endowed sidekick that did a lot of running, and one could observe the effects of gravity. That seemed to interest me much more than the plot that was full of holes.
Well, let me bring this to the table.
Bring it.
If I actually liked the Sarah Jane Smith adventures, that was Sarah Jane Smith, Elizabeth Sladen, or Sladen, however you say her last name. Rest in peace. She was a good actress. She's of Doctor Who fame, and she did a show for kids. And it was more kid-oriented, and it was fun. It had a variety of characters. It had a good premise, and it would occasionally intertwine with David Tennant and Matt Smith as the Doctor. Yeah. Was that a bad thing? I remember people bitching about that show because they didn't think it was serious enough. I'm like, what part of you don't have to watch it? Don't you understand? I watched because I thought it was fun. And oh yeah, it was cheddarific.
Well, you see,
but that's also the thing I'm giving. That's also the thing I'm giving Jodie Whittaker, a chance, because, what if I watch it and I don't like something? I don't like it. I'm not going to slam it. I say, yeah, she's good, but the script sucks. I'm old enough to know the difference, and I don't have to be hardcore, because being hardcore anymore on almost anything is a waste of your time and energy. People are going, but people also, I remember hearing from my friends over in Britain, they said, well, my daughter now wants to be a police officer because she liked, Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith being a detective. And I said, good. What's wrong with that?
You see, I see absolutely no problem with setting up a series called Sarah Jane Smith Adventures or whatever, because you're setting it up right from the start as an original with a woman in it. It's a slightly different concept than running a series for 54 years with a male lead and then changing that.
Gender appropriations is what it is, Brett.
What I think, the angle I think you don't quite see that kind of obsesses quite a few people over here in Britain is that angle of what we are seeing here on the BBC very heavily, and therefore they are losing audience like you don't believe it.
Yeah, that's fair. I am an American. I don't see what you see.
They are trying to kind of force feed us this diet, whereby, for example, now the news section, when you get the sports section of the news, they tell you as much about how the England women's football team are doing and the England women's cricket team. And just today they had another report on the lady golfers at the Open. Now, I'm sorry, those things command a fraction of the audience share of the male equivalent sports. But that is completely irrelevant. They will report on it anyway and dedicate to it as much time as they want, because they feel we ought to be interested in it. And therefore, a lot that we are getting from the BBC is this kind of force-fed diet of trying to re-educate us.
Yeah.
And therefore, of course, when we then see something as iconic as Doctor Who suddenly switch to a woman, there are a great many people who sit at home and go, oh, here we go again.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I have no retort to that. That's completely a fair assessment. As an American, I don't see it from that. The only thing that I do see over here is what they've done. Look up on your free time, Britisher, look up Modern Family. I'm not even going to go into a tangent on that. That's what they're force feeding us over here in America, as they think is what's the societal standard for what American family life should be, as opposed to Leave It to Beaver or whatever else we had. Okay, here's a very good comparison. Ogre, you remember Family Matters? Great show.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And it was about folk of black folk. It was about black folk that were the all-American family, and that was a good show. A Modern Family is the antithesis of everything
it's
that
white morons.
Well, no, it's much more than that. And I want a Britisher to read up on that series and why I despise it, but I don't trash talk it because I don't give a shit. It's the antithesis of what Full House and Family Matters were. And Full House was not exactly the atypical American family. Family Matters was, but they were black folk. And we didn't give a shit back in the 80s. I didn't give a shit. Still don't. Great fucking show. But that's what they're trying to force feed us on a certain level as well, especially when they say, oh, celebrities say this against our president left and right and our politicians. And I said, and I went out on Twitter and I said, celebrities don't speak for us. They aren't us. So every celebrity out there, I don't give a shit what you think. You know, I'm at the age, I don't have to like whatever I like, but I do understand exactly what you're saying, Britisher, because I'm not from the UK. I'm from America. But I don't see exactly what you see. I see similar things on a different level with different people, and it pisses me off. But I'm not going to lose any sleep over it because I don't feel like having a freaking heart attack. You know what I mean? But yeah, there is a certain aspect of you don't want to see certain things. And for all these people out there thinking, no, this is evil, the people that are perpetuating this crap, they're the ones that are making V for Vendetta come full to pass. They're the ones that's making Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, George Orwell's 1984 and Animal Farm and all this shit come to pass. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's because you're an idiot. Because you force feed shit on people, and people are too stupid because they have basically what they said in basketball, that a person has the attention span of a hummingbird, and it's very true. But yeah, I concede that I don't understand what's going on in the UK on certain levels because I'm not in the UK. I'm in the Midwest of America. We have our own problems. We don't want people coming into our little bit of the world messing things up. And we don't want to send our citizens to defend our country out to other parts of the world where they're going to get messed up. We have right now probably, you know, people seem to fail to realize this isn't the 1960s. Things aren't as bad as they seem. They're just buying into the bullshit. You know, I hate to say this, but sometimes McCarthy was right. And that's saying a fucking lot.
All right. And hell, that was almost like a wrap-up, I think. Eventually, I'm going to do that. I'm going to give you a chance to put some final words to this Zero Cool. I don't think that'll be a problem for you and everybody else also. I wanted to tell y'all something, man. I know this kid and such a terrible life. You know, his mother was a prostitute and kind of abandoned him, and he became a very prominent lawyer out west. But never mind. I was just going to do something so stupid. I was going to go, but then a couple of dudes that were, you know, out to make trouble in his neighborhood caused an altercation with him, and his mother was very frightened, and so she sent him out to a wonderful paradise out in Bel Air. I don't know. It was just something so dumb. Oh, save me, Brett.
Okay, well, are we kind of bringing it to an end? Shall we have?
Oh well, shortly, but that was because
that was
yes, my attempt at an old.
That was Fresh Prince bullshit right there. I called that a mile.
We were sort of heading
somebody noticed it without me coming around and saying
Bel Air, but it was kind of going there in a meandering way.
No, that was my attempt at an old 4chan gag. I just didn't do it too good.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with 4chan, so I'm afraid I can't follow that.
Oh well, the thing of it was to be able to get on any kind of show. And since I guess this is our show, I didn't get on anything, and then to tell a story that sounded pretty good, but then you broke into the premise of the opening part of The Fresh Prince of Bel Air, a comedy series from the early 90s with Will Smith in it. And so that's what I was trying to do, but I wrecked it. If I could have just stayed in character, what would have ended up happening, I would have told you the story of woe, and then I would have broke into the, I got in one little fight, my mom got scared. So
Get wrecked, Ogre.
Yeah, I ruined it. I don't know if I was.
You couldn't keep a straight face for shit because I was busting up laughing. I knew where it was like, oh, here we go.
Anyway, so that was so dumb. But I'm not saying that the thing today was dumb, but I found one thing out, Britt. No matter what I plan to do, and this goes in life, I guess it's the old adage: you make plans, but whatever I plan to do, it doesn't always go that direction. I mean, Zero Cool pointed that out. Like, let's get back on top. Well, it's usually doesn't stay on topic. One thing or another happens, and it goes here or there. But that said, we did talk about some stuff. I think that Butter is hilarious, Britt, and everything that I've ever seen her do, like the one today was a short one, but to her a long one is a minute and a half. That is a long one. Most of her videos are about 30 seconds long, and it's just something along those lines. So I don't know, whatever y'all want to say. And then I'm gonna get out of here. I can smell my tea cooking wafting in from the other room. Mrs. Ogre's did not work today, which is great for me. Because instead of like banquet meat pies that you warm up in the microwave, or what else do I eat? Like I even eat like the Salisbury steaks, man. Just get like $1, throw them in there, eat them. No, I don't eat that shit. But it is.
What's a big old bag of popcorn for the dog there? Give him some.
It is tough for me because I will go from eating
dog on licorice all sorts.
Beans and rice is what I usually cook, to be perfectly honest. But when Mrs. Ogre's here, she makes some stuff. Me and the Logical Lion were talking the other day. The Logical Lion and I were speaking, and he's a vegan, and I eat mostly vegan food. Mrs. Ogre makes cheese out of cashews, brewer's yeast and cashews, and most people are like really dubious. But what I do is people that I know, we don't mention that the macaroni and cheese doesn't have any dairy product in it. And no one has thus far. Most people are like, wow, this is the best mac and cheese I've ever had. And it doesn't work for everything. You can't get shredded cheese, and it's not so gooey, but blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this has been an interesting show, Brett, but it didn't go exactly how I wanted. We did cover a lot of the topics that I wanted to talk about. I thought some of them were funny. You can't always talk about Trump and his wall.
People need to get over that shit. I'm sorry, but they just, God, they
That's
do.
the ultimate pun, isn't it?
With getting over shit?
No, getting over the
wall.
Well, the wall of shit.
So let's do this because I've got like 9 minutes. So let's start with the common sense guy, and then go to Zero, and then Brett and myself, and we'll just whatever you want to say. We're going to split that much time. Doesn't sound like much time till you start talking. It's actually a good little chunk. Remember that, Zero, because you can go for 5 hours. No, I'm just teasing. So whatever you got to say, any topic that we covered or anything else, Conscious.
The only thing that I would like to go over quickly is to do with the chip, because I never got any time on that one. My point is literally the same as what Zero was. As soon as you start getting some company or anything that starts putting things inside of your body, it's absolutely wrong to do that. You can't do that. That's an infringement of your freedom and your rights. Get a card. It's that easy. Why the hell are you putting something inside your body? Simple as that. I'm done. That's it for me. Moving on.
I'm gonna follow that up. It's very simple, people. Life sucks. Life is what happens while you're making other plans, to quote John Lennon. And I don't like the Beatles for reference, but don't sacrifice your freedom and liberty for what is considered security, because there is no such thing as equality. Everybody is different in a good way and a bad way, and there's never been such thing as security as we think it is. That's all there is to it. And please, people, think for yourselves. If you don't like something, don't watch it. But if somebody enjoys it, don't trash it. Again, I hope that, Jodie Whittaker proves a lot of people wrong. If she don't, hey, I don't give, what am I going to do? And personally, God, you can't, if you don't think she's pretty, you are gay. And my daughter, who's a lesbian, thinks she's fucking hot. But hey, whatever. I digress. I'm done.
Who is that now?
My daughter.
No, but who? If I don't,
Jodie Whittaker, the new doctor.
Oh,
and come on, let's be honest.
I've not seen her likeness. I guess.
No, as of yet, all they did was show her pull her hood down and turn around. Oh yeah, ooh, yeah, it's total bullshit to go off on a deep end for that, people. Judge it after at least half a season. If you really genuinely dislike it, barbecue it all you want, but don't bitch about something after a simple scene of putting her hood down, turn around. Bullshit. I'm done.
I hear that Batman is about to be replaced by a woman. No, anyway, I thought I would sort of pick up on Butter's story, because it just sort of strikes me that we're constantly looking at manipulation, because that's what it really is. It's, you know, we are talking about social justice, and we're talking about, you know, people having these values that they seek to impose or have on their networks and whatever. But strictly speaking, it is an attempt at manipulation, because it is an attempt at exposing you only to the ideas that those people do approve of, in order to deny you seeing ideas that they disapprove of, and therefore for you to effectively become one of them because you have never been exposed to anything else. They are therefore trying to make you one of their own by controlling the information you see. And I mean, as such, I think that should just about anybody should find that entire concept revolting. But something that I have just never understood is that, where does this desire to do such a thing come from? And it seems to be so extremely widespread. You find it in every echelon of society. Oh, well, I don't think this should be on television. I don't think people should be allowed to see this sort of thing. You find that everywhere. You find it within, you know, the halls of government, but so too do you find it, you know, basically down your, you know, local pub or in the local shop. It seems to be almost a sort of a section of society has always felt that way. Once upon a time, they were the Puritans. But now those same sort of Puritan ideals have basically been seized by another group, which has cloaked everything not really in the language of morality, but within the language of justice, of fairness. So that basically they are imposing themselves, not like, say, the religious right was some 20 years ago, because of moral reasons, but they are doing so because they are only seeking to make the world fairer. And how exactly do you argue against that? How do you argue against fairness? That has effectively become their weapon. But essentially, at the heart of it, all they want to do is manipulate us. And basically, all I can do is look at those people and say, you know, why would you become so devious, so deceitful, that you would seek to deny somebody else's opinion, somebody else's expression, so that only your own and that of your ilk can be seen? Because if you really truly think like that, then you despise everybody in your own country. Anyway, that's my part.
All right. And sometimes it's, you know, convergent, divergent. Tonight it'll be a little divergent. Wonderful words from everybody, but what I've been thinking about is, since when has it been bad that you wanted where you're from, who you are, what your grandfather represented, what your father was, to live on? When did that become a bad thing? It's not a bad thing if you're in China or if you're in Japan or if you're in India, but it seems to be a bad thing if you're in London, England, or if you're in the United States. I don't want to sound like I'm alt-right. It just, when did it become a bad thing? And I don't really at my heart care a whole lot why this young person raped this woman. I care that this person shouldn't be here. So just as in, if there's an accident, doesn't matter who's at fault. If one of the drivers is intoxicated or doesn't have a driver's license, well, they shouldn't have been there. So no matter what the other driver did, the fault is theirs. This person shouldn't be here. They shouldn't have been here. It doesn't matter what the dogma is that's being barked left and right, that the United States of America caused slavery. Are you kidding me? Babylon, there was slaves. Britisher could talk for hours about the slavery in Rome. He could tell you how the slave markets worked. This is the idea that it was invented by the United States is crazy. The idea that it was invented by light-skinned people is crazy. The idea that light-skinned people perpetuate it now is absolute, the height of insanity, because your slave markets are mostly in dark complected countries at this point in history. I don't really care what the psychological reasons are. I take that back. I want to be honest. I care, but my reasons for caring don't matter, even to me, because my reasons for caring is only the wondering of why. Isn't that the great human question? Why? You know? Animals don't ask that question. They want to know how. They don't really ask that question. Human beings do. If he hadn't been here, it wouldn't have happened. We need to have something happen in this country. I hope it happens in England and Britain. I really do, because bad things are happening there, man. Tommy Robinson will tell you all about it. It's bad things are happening there too. But in this country, I hope it stops and we can go back to what it was when maybe the talk wasn't so politically correct. When you found that, honestly, Zero would know, in comic books in the 70s, a lot of racial reaching across the gulf, but people still maintaining the stereotypical themselves that is reality. I mean, stereotypes are there for a reason. I could go on for a long time on this, but I can smell. It's 6 o'clock right now, and man, Mrs. Ogre is making what she called a squash tower. So it's onions and batter and squash, and she's like frying this thing, and there'll be some kind of wonderful dip that it will dip that into. So I can smell that, and I'm going to go on to that. Because, you know, what is it? It can't get along with the white YouTuber because it's doom and gloom, Britisher. We're just old fuddy-duds, stick in the muds, and have to think about things, right? We have to take time to wonder what's going on in the world and think about them. And sometimes they don't look so good. So nothing we can do about it now? Bull crap. We can. We could stand up as white folk, black folk, some of the most adamant and vehement, ardent nationalists that I've seen on the internet have been Hispanic ladies that are here legally. Oh man, listen to one of them that went through the 8 years. They're like, they don't get no free ride. Why are they getting a free ride? They will shout out about it. And
they're the ones that are pissed.
Yeah,
and they're Americans. You know, they chose to come to America, be Americans. We love them for it. And if these people are going to come over and stomp on that shit after they've busted their ass for 8 years, you know, I'm going to be like, hey, sweetie, go ahead, do your thing. We're just going to stand here, hold your coat and purses, and let you unleash hell.
Yep. So in wrapping up, because that was a beautiful addition there, and you look so much like Razor Fist to me in some ways, that I'm just going to say this. Razor did a great video about the wall and why it was good. He talked about being over there and working, and this young, probably 3-year-old Mexican girl coming over to him in a place where there were dead human bodies along the way when he went to help these people build a little bit more to their hovel. And she offered him a tortilla, and he talked about how, you know, that just touched him, and how the wall is necessary because making this black market of moving people over and letting the government of Mexico be the way it is, with all due respect, is perpetuating this thing and making something go on that we could change it would not be through social justice. Everybody here will agree on that. It would not be through social justice. So I'll say one more thing that we'll all agree on, and then I'll close. The only way that you can come to any solution for any problem is to open your mind. Start with the problems that you have inside yourself if you haven't tried self-improvement. And once you start to improve those things, speak with some people that helped you do that. And then maybe we can find the answers to the deeper problems in life. It doesn't mean that they'll happen, but maybe we can find them. And it's not to the left. It's not universal everything for everybody. And it's your right to get into the till and into the kitty and get whatever you want, no matter what you put into society. And it's not to the right, saying that even if you've broken your back and you were a carpenter for 30 years, now you've gotten 6 years of pay, and even though now you're addicted to Vicodin or morphine or something else, you have to go get a job or we'll throw you in the street too. It's in neither one of those places. It's somewhere in that strange area that I've heard, centrism. It's somewhere in the centric middle. So remember, folks, be good to your friends and be good to your family members. Be good to your loved ones. Be quick to say you're sorry. Be even quicker to accept an apology, especially when that thing your friend, your family member, your loved one has done seems to be so huge, you'll never be able to forget about it. Because constant viewers, at a time you think not, your friends, your family members, your loved ones, your life, your cause, and anything you could stand for is going to depart from you, and it won't matter anymore. Ha ha!